For now, we have the representatives from the city government of CDO, Mr. Kenneth Tamala and Mr. Jericho Meneses. From Angkas, we have Mr. George Royeca, Attorney Rog Ramirez, Attorney Jillian Soto, Attorney Jauro Castro, and Attorney Juan Paulo Liedo. From Joyride, we have Mr. Attorney Noli Yala and Mr. Rico Meneses. From Move It, we have Mr. Win Jacinto. We also have the National Public Transport Coalition representative, Mr. Ariel Lim. And from Digital Pinoys, we have Mr. Ronald Castillo. That's all for now, Mr. Chair.
Walang representative yung Move It.
Meron siya. Meron.
Meron siya. Thank you, Comsec. Before we proceed further, the chair would acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Ana Victoria Veloso Tuazon, representing the 3rd District, the province of Leyte. Gandang umaga po. Next part is the opening remarks of the chairman. My distinguished colleagues, members of the Committee on Transportation, and all our honorable guests, good morning. I would like to welcome everyone to the committee's 19th regular meeting, and I would like to thank you for responding to our invitation. In today's hearing, we'll be tackling on a matter of national significance and utmost importance. The committee called for this inquiry or hearing to look into the several issues concerning the implementation of the motorcycle taxi pilot study program of the Department of Transportation. Aside from the DOTR, we also invited the other members of the technical working group charged with the implementation of this program, as well as the relevant agencies to give us the updates and to respond to several issues and questions concerning the program. By virtue of general guidelines issued by the DOTR sometime in the year 2019, the pilot program aimed to study the viability of operation, particularly on the economic, safety, and security aspects of motorcycle taxis. Motorcycle taxis have been regarded as a solution to the country's mobility issue, particularly in Metro Manila and other urban areas. 3 motorcycle taxi platform providers, Angkas, Joyride, and Move It, were granted the accreditation to participate in the pilot study. Each assigned a number of riders to operate in Metro Manila, Cebu City, and Cagayan de Oro City as the pilot areas of implementation. The advent of the pandemic saw the program temporarily suspended in view of operational health issues that have to be resolved. Motorcycle taxi operators then were required to install plastic barrier between the rider and passenger to provide another layer of protection, in addition to wearing a face mask to help prevent virus transmission. The gradual lifting of health restrictions has since resulted in the pilot study returning to full operation. Under the revised guidelines and its implementing rules and regulations, when the pilot study resumed in November 2020, a total of 63,000 riders has been set to participate in the pilot study, distributed as follows: 45,000 in Metro Manila, 9,000 in Cebu City, and 9,000 in Cagayan de Oro City. However, while pandemic is no longer a problem, operational issues took place, and precisely the reason why we are here today. And among the issues that we heard include, among others, safety and security of operation, unfair competition among the players, overcharging, commission of riders, issues on insurance, and liabilities. Aside from the foregoing issues, there are also calls for expanding the coverage of the pilot study to other areas and to accredit more players. The main objective of this hearing is for the committee to come up with recommendations to address these issues and concerns, pending the crafting of a legislation that would formally mandate the proper regulation of motorcycles for hire. There are bills dealing with motorcycle taxis and are being harmonized by a technical working group created for the purpose. We will first hear from the Motorcycle Taxi Pilot Study Technical Working Group the update on the implementation of this program. After that, we will give our members the opportunity to ask questions and raise their issues. Those who wish to interpolate with our resource persons, kindly register your intention to do so with the committee secretary. May I now give the floor to the chairman of the Motorcycle Taxi Technical Working Group for their presentation. You have the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning to the members of the committee. With the permission of the chairman, may I present a report of the technical working group?
With your indulgence, Attorney Guadis, please allow the chair to recognize the presence of the Honorable Brian Raymond Yamsuan, representing party list Bicol Saro, and the Honorable Franz Castro, representing one of our deputy minority leaders, representing ACT Teachers Party List. Good morning, po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With the permission of the chairman, okay. The motorcycle taxi program started in 2019. We'll have the next slide. Across as early as 2019, Congress authorized and required the Department of Transportation to conduct the MC Taxi pilot study for the purpose of determining if a motorcycle taxi is feasible, safe, and should be legalized as a means of public transportation in the Philippines. At the moment, the pilot participants are operating in Metro Manila and Metro Cebu and in Cagayan de Oro. Next slide, please. The general guideline was set on May 9, 2019, primarily covering the pilot areas of Metro Manila and Cebu, or the number of participating riders and the requirement for participants. At that time, it was only Angkas who has a ride-hailing application. Next slide. Okay. Of the 7 interested participants, only Angkas, Joyride, and Move It managed to qualify the vetting process. After approximately 8 months of suspension due to the COVID pandemic and lockdown, the MC Taxi pilot study resumed sometime in 2020. Next slide. Next slide, please. Number 7, isa pa. Okay. The House Committee on, initially it was the House Committee on Metro Manila Development that called for a hearing to discuss also at that time the merging of Move It and Grab Philippines Incorporated. The new technical working group discussed strategies on how to improve its data gathering, amend the existing guideline, and closely monitor the public participant, the pilot participants. Next slide. So in line with the goal of the Motorcycle Taxi Technical Working Group, a random survey was conducted out of the 1,524 participants who participated. In Luzon, we have 1,494. In Visayas, we have 18, and in Mindanao, we have 12. The outcome of the program, next slide, was submitted to the old technical working group to the Congress, and the final report was submitted to it. Together with it, a department order was crafted reconstituting the technical working group under the new administration. Next slide. The outcome of the pilot program is number one, as of March 2023, of the three who participated, there were 28,614 for angkas. Next slide. As of April 2023, for Move It, we have 6,471 participants. And for Joyride, we have 19,500 participants. On matters of safety, based on, next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. On matters of safety, we have been monitoring it from the onset of this program. As to the crash report, it is less than 1%, and angkas has a safety rating of 99.99%. Move It has a safety rating of 99.99% also. Joyride was not able to give us the exact data, so what we have is here until 2022, they have 276 accidents. Next slide. On economic opportunities, which we have made a study and we're glad to report this to the House. The program has been very successful and it has provided income to those who participated, as you can see in the graph. For an average rider, a part-time rider has a net earning of 9,000 pesos a month. Binawas na po dyan yung cost of fuel, which is however variable because the constant influx in the price of fuel and the motorcycle costs. A full-time rider has a net earning per month, as you can see in the graph, of 41,600 pesos. The data is based on the data given to us by the three pilot participants. For a full-time motorcycle taxi rider can earn as much then as 40,000 pesos per month for more than the minimum wage in Metro Manila. In addition to that, based on our investigation, there were other benefits given to the motorcycle taxi riders by the three participants. Foremost among them is 1, accident insurance, 2, medical reimbursement insurance, and 3, cash incentives. Now, what are the plans of the new administration on the program? As for now, there are opportunities and benefits for motorcycle taxi riders, so that once they have been, a law has been enacted to legalize motorcycle taxi, the new administration plans to organize the motorcycle taxi transport into cooperatives. Next slide. And one of the plans then is to incorporate them into a new cooperative, which will give them greater economic benefit and negotiating, and they will give them more powers in the negotiating table. Next slide. Towards this end, the government and all its branches, subdivisions, instrumentalities, and agencies shall ensure that the provisions of the technical guidance and financial assistance to the riders. Next slide. Next slide. What does it mean if we are able to legalize this? The riders will be able to group themselves into a cooperative because they are now a legitimate organization. And if they are a cooperative or they are a corporation, other than their income, they can have an interest on the share capital and a patronage refund. In addition to that, under the Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008, if they are able to form themselves into a cooperative, this cooperative now may be able to import, distribute, and market their own petroleum products. They can operate their own gas stations. They can put up their own hardware for spare parts, accessories, and other products for motorcycles, which, by the way, we are doing right now with the modernized jeepneys. Other plans for the new administration is tax exemption for the transport cooperatives based on Article 60 and 61 of the Philippine Cooperative Code of 2008. Next slide. And we have also legal and technical assistance from the Office of the Transport Cooperative, which includes regular monitoring of these cooperatives, continuous education of the riders. There would be good governance seminar, fleet management, legal assistance, and mediation for members of cooperative who got in conflict with the law. Other assistance that the Office of the Transport Cooperative intends to give to them the moment they have been organized into cooperative is different loading facilities from DBP, Land Bank, and from the transport cooperatives themselves. Next slide. Of course, if they are now a cooperative, they will have SSS, PhilHealth, and Pag-ibig. Now, the next slide, please. The plans of next slide. The areas and concerns where the LTFRB and the Office of the Transport Cooperative can help is number one. We have known for a fact that most of these riders, based on our dialogue, have no savings. So we encourage them to come up with transport cooperatives. They do not have SSS or government insurance. And then riders merely rely on their daily take, and they do not have other source of income. All of these things would be that we should legitimize the motorcycle taxi study. We have done our homework since 2019. We have initially submitted our report to the House of Representatives, and in our hearing with the upper house, there was even a recommendation for them, from them, for us to expand the study to include other urban areas, to include other participants, and to increase the number of participating riders, all in the hope that this program can deliver jobs for the people and at the same time to legalize a business which has been in existence for so long. These are the habal-habal that we see. They do not have any benefits. Yung mga sinasakay po nila, wala pong mga insurance yun. Pag na-disgrasya po yun, wala hong nananagot. If we are able to legitimize this, then the law can accord them passenger accident insurance. If they are given personal accident insurance, may protection po yung pasahero nila. The only way now for the Congress to do is to move forward, look into this MC taxi pilot study with favor, and enact a legislation that will eventually legitimize this habal-habal into a legitimate organization. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Before we proceed further, please allow the chair to recognize the presence of the Honorable Ambrosio Cruz Jr., representing the 5th District Province of Bulacan. The Honorable George Patrol Bustos, Chairman of the Special Committee on Strategic Intelligence, and representing Party List Patrol. The Honorable Ace Robert Barbers, Chairman of the Committee on Dangerous Drugs, and representing the 2nd District Province of Surigao del Norte. and the Honorable Rodante D. Marcoleta, representing party list Sagip. Now, we have a list of members of the Committee on Transportation who would wish to interpolate. COMSEC may have the list, please. As is the rule of this House, the first one to interpolate will be coming from the minority group. And we have the Honorable Franz Castro. Please, Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat, sa ating pong kasamahan dito sa Kongreso at sa ating pong resource speaker. So, thank you sa presentation po ng ating representative from DOTR about doon sa experimentation po ng ating yung itong tinatawag nating motorcycle riders as an alternative transportation for our people. At sa recommendation, Mr. Chair, nung ating tagapagsalita ay mukhang naging successful. So may mga ilang sinasabing mga accidents, etc. Pero so syempre ang primary concern natin, Mr. Chair, yung safety, accessibility, syempre yung pamasahe din. Baka meron din tayong pwedeng pag-usapan doon sa pamasahe na hindi rin po binanggit ng ating tagapagsalita o yung resource person. So unahin natin po, Mr. Chair, yung safety. So sinasabi po dun sa survey na yung angkas, move it, walang data for joyride, may 1% dun sa isang participants na 99% po yung percent yung safety nitong nitong ating klase ng sasakyan na ito. So, doon po dahil binanggit po, Mr. Chair, yung 276 accidents, tama po ba? 276 na mga accidents from the duration of the study. Ano po ba yung mga common na mga accidents na encounter dito sa study, Mr. Chair?
May I reply? There are two most common accidents here, Mr. Chair. Number one ho is yung nasa side swipe po yung tao. And then number two po, sir, is yun pong nababangga ho sila. One is their side swipe by a bigger vehicle. Number two ho is when they are on a collision with another vehicle, sir, Your Honor. We have data on that, and there's been a very minimal report. We conduct a month-to-month requirement from them to submit their data, and we validate this with the Philippine National Police. And yun ang mga pangkaraniwan po, nasa side swipe po sa gilid or kung minsan may tinatamaan po silang sasakyan. The accidents are rather kokonti lang po yung mga aksidente. But when an accident happens, sometimes it tends to be fatal, sir, mas lalo pag sila ay nasa side swipe po. But most of these times, so based on our findings, ay hindi po kasalanan ng rider. It's more on the other motor vehicle who is at fault.
Okay. Thank you for the information. So siguro mayroon ding bang factor ng training doon? So how often do you train yung mga riders natin in terms of yung mga safety measures? Dahil alam natin, for example, dito sa Commonwealth, meron talagang motorcycle lane. So sumusunod naman po nung ating mga riders doon. So how often do you conduct yung training po dun sa mga riders? O sino ba may responsibilidad nun? Yung provider ba o yung DOTR?
The training of the riders is more of a ang tawag ninyo responsibility of the three companies, Angkas, Moveit, and Joyride. However, we require them to submit the report to me. Madam, may I be allowed to request at least Angkas is here to help me give a detail of the training that they have. But every 6 months they have a training of at least 15 hours theoretical and at least 8 hours of a practical training. They have also a governing rule that if you are involved in an accident or if you violated their safety provisions, you get suspended or sometimes you get terminated from your job. To these three institutions, safety has been of a primordial concern to them. But for the details, may I, if the chair would allow us, request at least Angkas, who is the biggest in the group, to give us a detailed report if the committee will allow us.
So, brief na lang po no, kasi baka maubos yung time ko. Alam ba kung yung Angkas, how often, yung Moveit, at saka yung Joyride? Briefly lang po, Mr. Chair.
The representative of Angkas, you have the floor.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Magandang umaga po. Kami po, regular po yung training namin. So we have two major refresher course a year. Pero every time po na magkaroon ng minor infraction, they're automatically suspended. And then pupunta po sila sa training center to do refresher courses. So we conduct po refresher courses every day.
About, Mr. Chair, the Moveit, then Joyride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sa Moveit po, we have every 6 months revalidation of training. And same with Angkas, pag may mga safety instances na nare-report sa amin, we suspend the rider and invite them for retraining po, lalo na pag mga minor accidents. Thank you po.
Pernoli, Iyaala, Mr. Chair.
Good morning po, Mr. Chair and Ma'am Franz. Sa Joyride ho, unang-una ho, nagbigay ho kami ng aming accident report. Unfortunately, hindi ho nailagay. 99.8% po ang aming report, just like the other two players. Aside from what has already been mentioned by George and Wayne, ang kagandahan po ng pilot studies, from the very start, we were already required by the TWG to vet our riders properly. Kami po sa Joyride, meron po kaming full facility na meron po kaming training as well as practical examinations and constant regrouping and constant monitoring of our riders. So tuloy-tuloy pong education namin ng riders because we take this as an opportunity to really invest in this new industry sapagkat sa tingin ho namin pagkakataon ho ito para mabago ang patakaran at ang mindset ng ating mga riders. So kami po kagaya ng Angkas at ng Moveit, we are very much concerned about the safety aspect as reported by Attorney Guadis.
Okay, thank you po. So second point po, as regards naman doon sa pwede po bang sabi kasi 'di ba there are 6,741 participants in Moveit, 19,000 in Joyride. Ilan po ba yung sa Angkas? Parang di ko narinig. Ilan po ang riders ninyo sa Angkas, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, mga 22,000 po.
22. And the economic opportunity, no, sabi ng ating DOTR, Attorney Guadis,
Yes, Your
minimum of 40K daw, Mr. Chair, or maximum ba ng 40K per month sa NCR yung kita. So pwede po bang mag-cross? I mean, if I am an Angkas rider, can I be a member also of Joyride or Moveit? Pwede po ba yon, Mr. Chair?
Ma'am, theoretically po pwede. However, the three participants here of the pilot study, I think, do not allow the rider from one company to join another company. But from the perspective of the LTFRB, there is no prohibition.
Is that true?
Yes, yun yung
yung
tatanungin ko
angkas,
eh. Is that true for the
Move it.
yeah.
Kasi dapat sila ang sumagot nun eh, hindi yung TWG chair. Do you allow riders from Angkas joining Move It or the other group, Joyride? Bakit ayaw niyo sumagot?
Yes. Joyride.
Mr. Chairman, again, as correctly pointed out by Attorney Guadis, wala hong specific mention in the guidelines.
Yeah.
But as far as
Please answer the
Please answer,
question of
yeah.
the Honorable Franz Castro
Yes,
directly.
Mr. Chairman. For practical purposes, Mr. Chairman, we do not allow our riders to do any what we call multi-homing in Joyride, principally because of the nature of the pilot study. There are many practical elements in the pilot study that we feel will be served if we can monitor our own riders. This includes really the safety, also the number of
Yes,
riders that are
Mr.
actually
Chair,
moving.
ang tanong ko lang, do you allow a member to be a member of another provider? So yes or no lang po. Kasi so that you can help us, kasi nagpo-form na tayo ngayon ng proposed bill para dito. So
We do not, ma'am.
you do not.
Yeah.
How about Move It?
Mr. Chair, sa amin po, if they wish to transfer to Move It, then we do allow, we accept them.
No, it is not about transfer. So ako yung rider, member din ako ng Move It, member din ako ng Angkas. Do you allow that?
We don't allow that.
Okay? So kasi meron akong alam kasi na nag-a-allow nun, Mr. Chair.
I know.
Yes, sigurado ka ba doon? Kasi bakit natin tinitingnan ito, Mr. Chair? Para magkaroon din ng opportunity, mas maraming opportunity po yung mga rider na participants. Kaya gusto natin yon. Kaya kung meron nagko-cross membership sa iba't iba, so paano po yung mga ibang mga pwede na maging rider? So yun po yung titignan natin. Pwede po bang, meron po kasi akong pwede pong matanong natin ang organization din ng nag-advocate po ng ganito para kung talagang totoo po yung sinasabi ng Move It. Yung Angkas ba, do you allow pa? Do you allow po?
If I can just briefly, ma'am, no, yung unang technical working group po. back in-
Kindly answer the questions directly.
Mr.
Kasi
Chair?
marami pang
Sorry,
members
just
na
quickly,
magtatanong eh.
Mr. Chair, we don't allow because the previous technical working group po in 2019 did not allow us to do that back then. Pero ngayon, we've been actually supporters of multi-homing.
With the indulgence of the Honorable
Yes,
Castro,
Mr. Chair.
what guarantee do you have that your riders do not also participate sa the other two groups?
We do
What
not have,
guarantee do you have?
Mr. Chair, we do not have guarantee po.
Yes, kasi nangyayari talaga eh. And I do not know why you do not know it. And we know it for a fact. Kasi constituents namin yung mga riders eh. Sinasabi naman nila. Kayo naman no, ayaw nyo pa magsabi ng totoo. Are you ignorant about these things?
No, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Magtapatan tayo rito. That's why we are here to find out na yung loopholes may plug natin. Kung ayaw nyo magsabi ng totoo at iba yung sinasabi nyo doon sa alam namin, hindi tayo magkakasundo. Di po ba? Yes. The Honorable Castro, please proceed. 1 minute,
Yes.
Madam.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Mahalaga yun na malaman natin yung mga ganong mga practices na tingin natin ay hindi magandang practices yung mga ganon. At ano ba to? Meron ding problema doon sa competition. Okay, may nakikita din po ako doon. So sa tanungin ko na lang, Mr. Chair, ang last na to, yung Digital Pinoy, dahil natanong ko sila kung ano yung mga practices ng mga riders kaugnay nito. May I may I, Mr. Chair? So, Ronald?
Yes,
Ronald
yes,
Villa.
Mr. Chair. Apo. So, monitoring po natin, no, at saka doon po sa practicality po, hindi po maganda na nagmumulti-home yung mga riders. Bakit po? Unang-una yung issue po ng safety, sinong kumpanya ang liable kung maaksidente po ang rider kung siya po ay nagmumulti-homing. Pangalawa po, nabablock yung opportunity para po mag-onboard sana tayo ng mga habal-habal riders na hindi pa po participant nung pilot study natin. So meron po tayong nakita na mayroong pong kumpanya na specifically tina-target niya talaga yung riders ng rival companies niya. Specifically si Move It po, meron po tayong nakuhang mga statement from riders na binabanggit po nila na talagang hinahabol po sila ng mga onboarding employees ng Move It. Ngayon po, ang problema po kasi dito, ang dami po
Pwedeng
nating
maputol lang, no? Yung sinasabi mong evidence ng meron talagang nagko-cross. Can you submit that to the committee para po merong
Yes,
may proof yung inyong sinasabi?
Yes, Mr. Chair. 2 weeks ago, we wrote a letter to the committee at may kasama po siyang flash drive na may videos po nung mga empleyado po ng Move It na nanghihikayat po sa Joyride na lumipat po sa kanila. At ang kapalit po nito, meron pong incentives and at the same time may allegation po na kapag ka ikaw po ay nanggaling sa rival motorcycle taxi company, hindi mo na po kailangan mag-onboard. And we have also secured 2 sworn statements from 2 riders who can attest that they were onboarded despite not going through evaluation and retraining.
So, thank you po, Mr. Chair, no? So that would guide us, no, dun sa ating mga provision later dun sa bills. That's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
The Digital Pinoy has really submitted a report on what he has stated. Thank you. Before we proceed, please allow the chair to recognize the presence of the Honorable Sergio Dagook, representing Association of Philippine Electric Cooperatives, or APEC, party list. The next to interpolate is the Honorable Ricardo Cruz. You have the floor, Your Honor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Magandang umaga po sa ating lahat. Ako po ay bago naging congressman ngayon. Noong una ho, barangay captain, naging konsihal ng Taguig, vice mayor ng Taguig, ngayon congressman ng Taguig at Pateros. Ipinagmamalaki ko po na ako ay isang dating tricycle driver. Wala ho ako narinig sa report nyo tungkol sa mga tricycle, sa mga concern, sa mga mangyayari sa amin, mga tricycle driver na taon-taon ay nagre-renew ng prangkisa, nagre-renew sa LTO. Ano po ba ang mangyayari sa amin sa lehitimong mga tricycle driver operator na sasagasaan nitong habal-habal? Hindi po kami tumututol ho. Pero sa Taguig po at Pateros, hindi ho kailangan ng habal-habal. Sa Pateros ho, may 2 taga-Pateros dito, puro tricycle lang nabiyahe po dyan. Sa amin, 28 barangay po sa Taguig, bawat barangay may tricycle association. Saan niyo po papipilahin ngayon yung mga habal-habal na nagpapatayan na po sa amin sa Taguig? Nangaagaw ng pasahero ang mga habal-habal. Hindi po kailangan sa Taguig yan. Hinuhuli po sa amin sa Taguig ang habal-habal. Bakit po? Ang tagal na pong hanap buhay namin sa tricycle. Tapos papasukan kami ngayon ng basta-basta na lang. Mahirap po yan. Pag-aralan nyo mo, sa ibang lugar po pwede yan. Pero sa amin sa Taguig at sa Pateros, hindi po kailangan ng habal-habal. May prangkisa po ba yan? Ilan ho ang magiging bibiyahe sa amin sa Taguig? Ilan ang bibigyan nyo o papayagan yung bumiyahe sa Pateros? Saan nyo ho papipilahin yan? Kami ho, may ruta, may linya. Paano ho gagawin nyo sa aming tricycle? Nagmamalasakit lang po ako dahil ako ho ay isang tricycle driver. Sana maunawaan nyo rin ho ang sitwasyon namin. Kami po ay naging driver din po ako ng jeep. Paano ho yung mga driver ng jeep? Ang hina na ho ng kita ngayon eh. Eh narinig ko ngayon yung sa kita ngayon, 40,000 isang buwan. Eh ang tricycle driver po ngayon talagang hirap na hirap kumita ho. Maaagawan pa ng habal-habal. Pag-aralan niyo pong maigi ho yan. Magkakagulo po sa amin sa Taguig o sa ibang lugar, magkakapatayan po yan. Dahil matapang pa ang mga habal-habal. May problema pa ho kami ngayon. E-bike. Talaga hong pinaguhuli ho sa amin ng e-bike at talagang tinotop po yan at sinasalansan po namin yan dahil naapektuhan nga po yung mga legal na naghahanap buhay tulad ng mga tricycle driver. Mr. Chair, yun lang po ang concern ko at sana po mapag-aralan muna maigi yan. Hindi po ako tumututol. Sa probinsya pare ko pwede yan eh. Pero sa Metro Manila hindi dahil ang daming tricycle at jeep sa Metro Manila. Salamat po.
Anybody from the DOTR can answer the issue raised by the Honorable Cruz?
May I answer your chair? Number one po, pareho po tayo ng kalaban, habal-habal. Ang habal-habal po ay mga illegal na mga namamasada ng motorsiklo. Ito hong programa natin, these are ride-hailing agencies po. Hindi ho kailangan ng terminal nito dahil pag kailangan ho ito, cellphone lang ho ginagamit. Yung parang sa TNVS po natin. Pwede pong maging, in some way I agree with you, yung mga customer po ninyo ng mga tricycle po, pwede pong kunin nitong mga tinatawag natin mga ride-hailing programs po. Yes, there would be a shifting po in the needs. Pero ipaalala ko rin po sa inyo na ang mga ito po, iba naman ho ang rider natin sa mga ride-hailing agencies. Ito po yung mga ayaw ng pumila sa terminal, gusto from their home, may pipick up ho na mga motorsiklo sa kanila. As against a regular tricycle po na kailangan po kayong pumunta sa terminal. Number 2 po, tinanong po ninyo yung legality po nito, yung mga permits po nito. This is just a pilot study, sir. And it's now up for the House of Representatives to determine if you should legalize this or not. The province of the technical working group is only to present to you the results of our study, whether it's economically viable and whether it can generate income for its riders. But as to whether you will legalize this or not is a matter within the wisdom of the Congress po. We submit po.
There's another issue raised by the Honorable Cruz, yung e-bikes or e-trikes. Yes. Maski sa ibang lugar.
May
Dali, ha?
we yield to the Land Transportation Office because it's not within the program po ng LTFRB yung e-bike, sir.
And kanino pong programa yun?
Wala po sa program ng LTFRB yung e-bike, sir. I think ang issue dyan is registration po, sir.
But the fact remains na ginagamit na for transportation ito. Di po ba?
I agree with you, sir.
And therefore, it's your job under the Department of Transportation to find out whether the rules, regulations, policies, MCs regarding this matter. Hindi ba dapat kayo? Bakit kailangan antayin nyo pa na mayroong magkakagulo tungkol dyan bago kayong mag-come up ng mga rules and regulations or policies about this?
We submit, Mr. Chair, we have existing policies for the use of the e-bike, but as a mode of transportation, for now, we're still in the process of studying it. And we would like to yield the floor to the LTO who is in a better position to discuss it, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And before the ASEC of the LTO, the new one, would answer the question, the chair would acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Nelson Dayang Hirang, representing the First District, Province of Davao Oriental. Please proceed, Your.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for bringing up the issue of electric means to commute. No, tinitingnan na po natin yan. We have received a lot of position papers, Chair, from various groups, from various organizations regarding this matter. Sa ngayon po, we are not registering itong mga electric scooters, electric bikes, no? Pero because of its proliferation, especially in the major thoroughfares, no, tinitignan po natin po yan. Malamang po within this month of August, makapagbigay po kami ng rekomendasyon sa DOTR for a policy direction when it comes to electric motor vehicles. But for now, yung mga motorcycles po na 35 watts, no, more than 35 watts, yun po lang po ang rinirehistro po natin. Anything below 35 watts, and that would cover the bicycles, the scooters, na nakikita yung sa daan, yun po ay subject to policy direction po ng DOTR, which we hope we could complete within this month and forward to the department. Mr. Chair.
Satisfied with the answer, Your Honor? Okay.
Sa amin po, sila pa nanununtok sa mga tricycle driver eh. Sila pa mga siga eh. Walang lisensya, walang rehistro. Nangaagaw ng ruta. Kaya ho, dalawa problema namin eh, habal-habal at saka yung e-bike.
Thank you. Before we go to the next interpellator, please allow the chair to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Alfelito Alfel Bascug, representing the First District, Province of Agusan del Sur. Yung gustong magtaas, yan bang sasabihin mo pertaining to the issue we're discussing? Please identify yourself and you can proceed.
Yes, Ariel Lim, National Public Transport Coalition Convener and National Confederation of Tricycle Operator and Drivers Association of the Philippines President. Yung pong sinasabi ng aming kasama, yung aking pong kasama dati sa TODA, si Congressman Cruz, talaga pong gaya ng sinasabi namin, we are not against dito sa motorcycle taxi. Ang hinihiling lang po namin, yung tamang bilang. Dahil kung hindi po, talagang mamamatay po kami. And I have a letter addressed to Chairman Guadis last 3 months ago, na humingi ako na wag na magdagdag dito sa Metro Manila. Pwede naman tayong magdagdag outside Metro Manila. Kasi po talagang mamamatay po kami, no? Sa dami po ng tricycle, hirap na nga kaming kumita. That's why sa TWG po kasi, ng unang TWG, member po ako eh. Kaya nagsimula itong usapin na to dahil po sa amin eh. Sa Senado namin dinala. Ang nangyari po, pagpalit ng administrasyon, tinanggal kami. So ngayon, sila lang ang TWG member. So ang problema ho ngayon, hindi na namin alam kung anong ginagawa nila. So marami po silang pinag-uusapan na hindi pinararating sa amin. Ang una pong tatamaan tricycle, gaya ng sinabi ni Congressman Rick Cruz, sa amin po sa Pateros at Taguig, napakaraming tricycle. No? Ang problema po, pumayag na nga kami dito sa motorcycle taxi na ito, pero yung habal-habal hanggang ngayon hindi nahuhuli. That's why kanina si Colonel naglolokohan kami. Hulihin nyo. Kasi wala namang mga uniforme. One instance pa, umupo pa sa Senado, yung Maxim. Illegal na, nakaupo pa sa Senado. And besides, kasama po ako sa namili sa 3 company na ito. Ito pong Angkas, Joyride at saka yung Move It. So yan lang po, 7 po yan o 8. Humabol pa ang Grab dyan, hindi na namin pinayagan dahil kinulang. Nagtaka ko, nung masyado ako maingay at binabanatan ko sa TWG yung mga mali, tinanggal ako. So, pag hindi po natin napag-usapan ito, tama si Congressman Cruz, mapupirwisyo po. Marami po ang tinatamaan. Gaya ng sinabi nung Grab noon sa hearing natin sa Metro Manila Council, Saan nyo kinuha yung pasahero na yan? Di ba sa amin, sa tricycle, sa jeepney, sa taxi, sa buses. Tapos sasabihin hindi kami tatamaan. So, sa amin po, okay yan. Pero lagyan natin ng capping hanggang ilan lang at ilabas natin. Kasi po, yung kapitbahay ko ngayon, alam nyo ho ba, taga Cagayan, Tugigaraw, pumunta rito para mag-apply dyan sa motorcycle taxi niya, dito na nakatira, didagdag pa. Eh magpakatotoo tayo. Diba pumupunta sila rito, lumuluwas sila rito dahil nandito yung hanap buhay ng angkas joyride movie. So bakit hindi na lang natin ilabas naman at hiningi ko nga dyan sa TWG nung una pa lang, pag kayo pinayagan, unahin nyo yung mga tricycle para yung dami namin mabawasan, unahin nyo yung mga tricycle driver na lumipat sa inyo. Yan ang unang kasunduan natin, Mr. Iyala, di ba? Kayo, Mr. Royeka. Pero tinanggal kami, kaya ngayon di na namin alam kung ano nangyayari. Yun lang po,
With
Mr.
your
Chair.
indulgence, Mr. Lim, hindi po kayo pwedeng magtanong sa kanila. Kami ang magtatanong.
Ah.
Ano po?
Sorry, Mr. Chair.
Eh, nakikita na po tayo sa hearing ng department ng Committee on Transportation.
Sorry,
Eh,
Mr. Chair.
I think you know the
Natatangay
rules
lang.
already.
Natatangay na po ako dahil sa
Opo.
hinanakit siguro.
Opo.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Pero para sa kaalaman ninyo, lahat ng negosyo may competition eh. Di po ba? Eh kasi kung nagtayo ako ng nightclub sa isang lugar at may nagtatayo ng nightclub din sa katabi ko, mapipiit ba yon? Kasi yun ang tinutumbok mo eh.
Mr. Chair, hindi po yon. Ang gusto lang po namin bigyan ng tamang capping bilang para po may protection naman yung iba na magkaroon na mabuhay ng pare-parehas. Yun lang po ang hinihingi namin. Payag po kami sa motorcycle taxi. Isa po ako sa nagtutulak niyan dahil kailangan. Pero wag naman po sanang sobrang dami at sa Metro Manila lahat ilalagay. Dahil po siksikan na, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Noted po. The next interpellator is the Honorable Busita from the minority.
Thank you po, Mr. Chair. Simulan ko lang po doon sa clarification from LTO, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, nabanggit po ng LTO na yung pong sa 35 watts na e-bikes po ba yun?
Ito sikto po.
So nabanggit po ninyo 35 watts eh. So hindi po ito di gasolina.
Electric po.
Electric.
Opo, yes, Mr. Chair.
Electric motorbike. Nagre-register na po kayo nito?
Meron na. Meron na po. Meron na po.
Yes. So kung nagre-register na po kayo, pagka napara ng enforcer yung rider na ginagamit yung e-bike with 35 wattage capacity, may violation kung hindi rehistrado. Tama po? Mr. Chair,
Yes.
tanong ko lang po sa LTO, nag-issue na po ba kayo ng memo sa lahat ng regional directors, Mr. Chair?
Tungkol saan po?
Na ito po ay nire-register na?
Meron na po. Meron na raw po.
Mr. Chair, pwede po bang malaman kung kailan?
Nung nakarang administration, Mr. Chair, kay Asek Galvante, we will supply the committee chair with a copy of the memo issued by then Asek Galvante.
What you're trying to tell this committee is that there's a memorandum circular issued by the former head of the LTO regarding this matter.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
So would it be all right, Your Honor, that they submit a copy of the
Mr. Chair, naitanong ko lamang po ito dahil meron nga pong napakasimpleng batas hindi may patupad ng tama eh. Much more, ito po na bago lamang sa kaalaman ng motorcycle riders. And ako po at yung aking kasamang advocate, Congressman Rose Gutierrez, matagal na po kami sa riding community pero nagulat po ako meron na pala niyan. So pwede po ba kaming makahingi ng kopya at ipublish natin sa publiko para hindi po napiperwisyo yung mga motorista na hindi nakakaalam nito at nang malaman din po, Mr. Chair, ng mga enforcers and police officers itong guidelines para dito, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair. In fact, we are doing a review of all memos issued for the last 2 years. Medyo marami lang ho talaga, humahabol ho kami dyan on top of other things. But we will supply the committee po with the requested document by Congressman Positas, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, follow-up lang po. So kung pinariristo po itong e-bikes na ganito, so nag-i-issue na rin po kayo ng plaka para sa kanila, Mr. Chair?
Medyo delayed po tayo, Mr. Chair, as everybody knows sa plaka. Wala ho pa ho tayong plakang na issue as advice to me.
ASEC, ang tanong po ni Honorable Busita is, nag-i-issue ba kayo ng plaka? Hindi tinatanong kung tama o husto yung number ng plaka. Nag-i-issue ba kayo ng plaka doon sa nagre-registro ng electric bike? Yun po ang tanong ni Honorable Busita. Please answer the question.
Mr. Chair, wala pa hong na-issue na plaka.
So, Mr. Chair, nire-register na po ng LTO yung mga e-bikes with 35 wattage capacity. And according to Honorable ASEC from LTO, hindi sila nag-i-issue. So, paano po ma-identify ng police officers o ng enforcers yung identity ng e-bikes na na-register po sa inyo kung wala po silang designated plate number?
Actually, Mr. Chair, may special design na plaka yung mga electric vehicles. Pero as I said, it's really a problem I recognize, Mr. Chair, kasi wala pa akong plakang nai-issue. Problema po talaga pagdating sa implementasyon dahil wala pa akong plaka.
Yes, I agree, Mr. Chair. Ang punto lamang po dito, yung pong ating pagkukulang ng mga nanunungkulan, napiperwisyo po ang marami nating mga kababayan. Kaya dapat po, Mr. Chair, maisaayos po ito. Mr. Chair.
Makakaasa po, Mr. Chair, isasama ko yan sa mga priority na kailangan po natin gawin.
With that, Mr. Chair, if I may, mag-request lang po ako na maglabas ng memo ang Honorable ASEC from LTO. Memo na malinaw sa motorista at sa mga police officers and traffic enforcers para po maiwasan natin na itong pagkukulang po ng ating ahensya ay hindi ang tinatamaan yung mga motorista.
We'll do that, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, sundan ko lamang po yung concern ni Honorable Franz Castro about multi-homing. Parang wala po akong nakita na aminado po ang lahat, all parties, na mayroong multi-homing na nagbabiolate dito. Ano po? Ang tanong ko po sa LTFRB, ano po yung nakikita ninyong solusyon para po maiwasan itong paglabag na ito ng mga riders?
With the permission of the chair. Number one, we are in the process of conducting a pilot study. Part of the probable recommendation would be just for one rider to stake it out with one company for purposes of determining culpability later on. Pag nadisgrasya kasi yung rider, hindi namin mapinpoint kaagad kung sino yung employer niya, whether it's company A or company B. So if you were to ask me, my recommendation to this honorable house when you come up with a law is to restrict it only to one company, and they can only transfer to another company if they resign in the first company that they are employed with.
Mr. Chair, ang tinatanong ko po sa... Yes, Mr. Chair. Sir, ang gusto po nating malaman sa TFRB being the head of the TWG is, ano po yung nakikita nilang solusyon para ma-prevent itong multi-homing practices na ginagawa ng ibang riders? Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair.
The solution is to require every uphailing company to submit to us a monthly list of their employees. So we compare it every month to see to it that no employee from Angkas is employed in Move It or Joyride or vice versa.
Yes.
Constant monitoring po.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yun din po ang ina-anticipate ko na isasagot ng LTFRB. Next question is, Mr. Chair, ginagawa na po ba ninyo yon? Nire-require po na ba ninyo yung tatlong company to submit the list of their riders?
Yes, sir.
So dahil ako po personally alam ko may mga nag-violate na dyan at sabi po ninyo nag-submit na. Now, next question Mr. Chair is, meron na po ba kayong naparusahan o na-identify na riders na nag-violate po dito? Considering na nabanggit po ninyo na nire-require na po ninyo yung tatlong companies to submit list of their riders?
For now, based on the LTO, meron na, Your Honor, and we're conducting a hearing together with the different regional directors.
Mr. Chair, para lang po maging maganda ang direksyon po nito, may we request, Mr. Chair, the TFRB to submit ilan po yung riders na dapat ng parusahan o naparusahan nila dito sa violations nito. At least list para po may direksyon. Mahirap po kasi, Mr. Chair, yung parang puro kwento na lamang tayo eh. At least may makita po tayong konkretong ebidensya na nagsisimula na pong LTFRB to address this issue. Mahalaga po ito eh. Kasi po isa sa guidelines, kailangan at least 10 hours ka lang mag-operate as rider. Pero kung marami kang companies na pinapasukan, eh baka yung 10 hours, baka maging 24 hours. May nangyayari po kasing ganyan, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, we will submit, we will oblige. May we request at least 2 days for us to come up with the list. And we will submit it to the chair, copy furnish the Honorable Busita.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, if I may, meron po akong mabilisang tanong lang. At 2 days, yes, Your Honor. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, gusto ko lamang pong malaman from the head of the technical working group, ilan po ba ang total numbers of riders na inaalaw para dito sa pilot project?
Sir, initially we have 45,000. That is divided into 15,000 for angkas, 15,000 for joyride, and supposedly 15,000 for move it. However, at the initial stage, move it is unable to come up with 15,000 riders, so its portion was allocated to angkas and joyride. But all in all, the total sum is 45,000 initially.
Mr. Chair, mabilisan lang po. Yun, dahil limited po yung time ko. Mr. Chair, may we request na mag-submit po ang LTFRB kung ilan po yung existing numbers of riders by each company, Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Same reply. May we be given at least 2 days from today to submit to the chair and to the Honorable Congressman Busita.
Mr. Chair, meron na lang po akong 2 remaining questions at nagmamadali po ako. Ilang minute na lang siguro ito. Mr. Chair, pwede po bang malaman sa head ng technical working group, as per guidelines, ilan na po ang number of accidents committed by riders under these companies?
Mr. Chair, as for the moment, we do not have the exact numbers. May we be given at least a period of time to give you the names of those involved in the accident and the nature of the accident that they were involved in, as well as the traffic infractions for those who were not involved in the accident. We will give you a detailed list, sir.
Mr. Chair, naitanong ko lang po ito dahil as per guidelines, meron po silang monthly monitoring sa TWG.
Yes,
Tama
sir.
po?
We do have.
Yes, Mr. Chair, at may katagalan na po ito. So we expect na may submit po agad ito, Mr. Chair, ng LTFRB. And second to the last question is, kasama po sa minomonitor dapat ninyo yung violations committed by the riders. As per your data and monitoring, ilan na po more or less ang riders na nag-commit ng violations, Mr. Chair?
Violation. For now, we have to admit I don't have with me the exact figures. Again, may I beg the indulgence of the chair? I will personally submit it to your office and to the office of the chair.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we expect that kasi mahirap naman at maraming trabaho ang LTFRB.
Of course, sir.
So
We
with
will-
that, Mr. Chair, request na lamang po natin na pagbigyan po natin ito ng special attention dahil napakahalaga po nito, Mr. Chair, sa ginagawa po nating evaluation. Mr. Chair, if I may, last question na lamang po for the insurance issue. Sa insurance issue, Angkas, Joyride, and Move It. Sino po ba, Mr. Chair, ang pwedeng sumagot nito?
Tanungin mo muna para tanungin ko sila.
Okay. Accident insurance issue. Pagka po na aksidente ang rider o kasama yung kanyang angkas at namatay, Mr. Chair, magkano po ang matatanggap ng pamilya ng rider o ng back rider na pasahero nito?
Angkas, please answer first.
Meron po kaming death and dismemberment insurance po na 500,000. Currently, ina-upgrade po natin yan ngayon sa 1 million. So may iba na pong isa sa 1 million, yung iba po 500,000. And then may medical reimbursement po ng 200,000, Mr. Chair.
Masarap. Mr. Chair, napakagandang pakinggan. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Pinasasagot natin sila eh. Move it, what would be your answer?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sa Move It po ngayon, we have personal accident covering ng 400,000 po for death. But sooner, we will also have life insurance for the riders. That's another 400,000 po.
Joyride?
Yes, Mr. Chair. For our insurance coverage, ang accidental death po namin is 1 million. Ang amin pong disablement and dismemberment is 1 million. And our medical reimbursement is 100,000. We also have for unprovoked assault of 250,000.
Your Honor.
Mr. Chair, napakagandang pakinggan po. Makikita po natin, magkakaiba yung kanilang benefits na binibigay sa mga riders. So if I may, Mr. Chair, kailangan pong ma-decide ito.
Your time is up, Your Honor.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please make it fast.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Yun lamang po, napakaganda na may standardize po ito at may palam sa mga riders para protektado at masaya naman po sila. Yun lamang po, Mr. Chair, dahil kulang na yung oras ko. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. And before we proceed, the chair would like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Bienvenido Abante Jr., the chairperson of the Committee on Human Rights, representing the 6th District City of Manila.
Chairman.
Before we leave the issue of multi-homing, almost always, in the context of the pilot study, how can we assure that the riders be limited to one application, one app? Yun po yung issue eh. And which has not been answered in the answers of the different resource persons. May I know the opinion of the LTFRB? Before they answer, the
Yeah,
Honorable
Mr. Chair,
Garcia is
yeah,
recognized.
I beg the indulgence of the chair. Yes, I'd like to be clarified before you answer the chair. Because I seem to recall in answer to the query of the Congresswoman Franz Castro, the chair of the TWG stated that multi-homing is not a violation. That under present rules, it is not a violation, because we have to make this clear. Is it a violation or is it not a violation? I seem to recall, I think if we consult the stenographer, I think I distinctly recall the chairman of the LTFRB say that at present, under present rules, under the pilot study, multi-hooping is not yet a violation.
Mr. Chair, may I answer? This is just a pilot study, Mr. Congressman. So for now, we're studying all angles of this, and in my technical working group, we do not see this yet as a violation.
Yes, thank you for the clarification, because That was what I recall earlier. And then when asked whether you are investigating violators, you also said that you are presently investigating violators. So which is which? Is it a violation? So that there is an investigation of violators, or it is not yet a violation since this is still a pilot study. We have to make that clear because we are already saying violation this and violation that, when in the first place we are not clear whether under the pilot study, in the understanding of the technical working group, this is a violation or not.
Mr. Chair, may I answer? What I would like to elaborate is that we are looking into cases where a certain individual is a employee or works for these three ride-hailing companies. Though we do not classify that as a violation, we take that as a part of our pilot study, which we will submit to this honorable house later on to the honorable committee for your own evaluation.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, for the clarification.
In other words, you're trying to tell the members of this committee that any rider can apply for the three apps.
For the moment, yes, sir, they can.
Yes, and therefore it
subject to
is not considered
limitations.
a violation.
Not yet, Mr. Chair.
Even if they work for 12 hours, it is not a violation.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Sandali.
Sir, the
You
limit-
wait for your turn, please, and you wait that the chair would recognize you. Hindi pa nakakasagot si Asek Guades.
Sir, for the working hours, there is a definitive time, which is about 8 hours. However, for the multi-homing, sir, we do not have yet any categorical rule on that.
Okay. The Chairman Paduano, the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just a quick rejoinder, Mr. Chairman. Asek, diba, do you have a guidelines
Yes, sir, we
That
do have a
was-
guideline.
that was approved by the technical working group?
Yes, sir, we do
Okay,
have
what
a
is your
guideline.
guidelines? Yung pinaka-latest, yung revised. Yung revised guidelines was December 19, 2029, tama? 2020. So may bago pa.
This was still the guideline issued
Okay.
under the previous
Okay.
administration.
So, I have a copy with regards to your guidelines. Napakalinaw po. Ay sabi mo kanina, this is not yet a violation. But of course, the operation supposedly, though this is just a pilot project, dapat sinusunod natin yung guidelines, di ba?
Yes,
Oh,
Mr.
now.
Chair.
Number 1 guideline. Riders will be registered under one rider hailing platform only. Oh. Oh, is that a violation or not?
That is the guideline, yes.
Kaya nga, ang tanong, is that a violation or not with regards to the guidelines? Kaya nga may guidelines na dapat sundin. Di ba?
Yes,
Asek?
Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair.
Oh, di may violation sa guidelines.
Yes, Mr.
Oh.
Chair.
Okay. Inamin na Mr. Chair, for the record. Now, dun sa issue with regards to number of riders that was raised by Congressman Busita. As you have reported, it's around 45,000. Tama?
Yes, sir. As of March of this year, it's about
March of
45.
this year, 45,000. Under your guidelines that was approved by the TWG, ilan lang ba dapat?
That was what was approved. and-
Okay, no. I have again the guidelines same. Number 1 is the riders will be registered under one rider hailing platform only. Number 2, from 27,000, which was the original guidelines, nagdagdag po kayo ng 30,000 Metro Manila and 9,000 Metro Cebu. And that's only 39,000. Now your report is 45,000. Again, a violation of the guidelines. Asek,
May I review the records. I have just.
No,
Chairman,
unless you report, which is presented in the video, mali.
I stand firm by my report, sir.
You stand by your report, so you violated the guidelines. You are only allowed 39,000. 30,000 in Metro Manila, 9,000 in Metro Cebu. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
Asek, could you please clarify the issue raised by the Honorable Paduano
Yes, sir.
after this hearing?
Yes, sir. We have the data. We apologize, sir, but we will probably update our data after the hearing.
Thank you. Next to interpolate is the Honorable Nograles. Madam, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Maayong buntag. Good morning, everyone. Obviously, with what Mr. Chair has explained today, it's all to harmonize our laws under the TWG and looking into the pilot study, the pilot program of the motorcycle taxis right now. But one of the issues that I haven't heard, it's very important to me as well, is the issue on the liability. We've talked about the safety, the economic benefits. I'm not against this. Of course, it's good. There are benefits to this, no? One of the issues also that we hope to address here is also kung i-expand na din natin ang coverage ng pilot study program na to and adding more players. But ito nga, hindi pa natin na papag-usapan itong liability issue. Although there is this insurance, there is the different amounts for the different coverages, no? Itong liability plays around with different laws that we have currently. And I guess my first line of questioning would be, ano ba talaga ang status nitong motorcycle taxis? Is it a public utility vehicle? Because we have the Public Service Act as amended under Section 2K that has provided that transport vehicles accredited with and operating through transport network corporations shall not be considered as public utility vehicles. So kung ganon at mahuhulog, 'di ba, na TNC naman po itong motorcycle taxis. Ano po to? Private utility vehicle? And we know that there's really no law governing liabilities also when it comes to private utility vehicles. So papasok ang civil code nito on common carriers. So I guess first I want to ask Mr. Chair, ano ba ang status nitong motorcycle taxis muna? Is it a public utility vehicle because it's obviously not included under what Congress has passed on the Public Service Act as amended? Or is it a private utility vehicle?
May I answer? Your Honor, the motorcycle taxi is in effect a creation of the Congress by virtue of a resolution crafted by the House urging the Department of Transportation way back in 2019 to conduct this MC taxi pilot study. So for now, it is a pilot study. We already submitted the report to the Congress, to the House of Representatives and to the Senate. And it is a continuing study upon the behest of the upper house.
Sandali lang. Mr. Gustilo, please do not raise your hand when somebody is speaking.
Apologies, Mr.
It
Chair.
is a sign of disrespect.
I apologize, Mr. Chair.
Sa susunod, I will place you out of order and bring you out of this room.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Kasi may nagsasalita eh. Tataas-taas ka ng kamay. Respetuhin mo naman yung kung nagsasalita. Thank you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, ma'am, this is a creation of the Congress we conducted the pilot study. We submitted the report to this committee. The pilot study has already terminated, but the program still continues because of the recommendation from the upper chamber for us to further make a study. So as to your query as to whether it's a public utility vehicle, to be very categorical, it's neither here nor there. This was a creation of the House, and this is just a pilot study. So anytime we can stop this. So for now, we treat this as a public utility vehicle under the concept of the taxi pilot study by virtue of a creation made by the Congress.
Thank you. Okay, so Mr. Chair, as of now, if I, with all due respect to LTFRB, no, you are to clarify, treating these motorcycle taxis as a public utility vehicle, which is against the PSA Act, right?
Again, ma'am, if I may again answer, we are not treating this as in the strict sense of the word, as a public utility vehicle. It is not. But because of a House resolution, we're conducting this as a taxi pilot study under a special classification of a public utility vehicle pursuant to a House resolution.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. I am asking because we, again, going back to the liability, that is very important. We have a pilot study. Pag may mga nangyari dyan, kahit may insurance coverage po, di ba? Kailangan natin malaman sino ba ang tuturuan natin. Especially that you've mentioned earlier, there are accidents and it is acknowledged, right? And sino ang hahabulin? Hindi naman puro insurance yan, di ba? So, if now, di ba, syempre we have to study, especially with the TWG, if we will consider it as a public utility vehicle or a private utility vehicle, because papasok naman doon yung liability laws. Kung private po yan, then that would be a common carrier, right? Kung common carrier yan, exercise of extraordinary diligence, no? But if, correct me if I'm wrong, if you have superseded this, no? Nagkakaroon kasi ng patong-patong ng mga iba-ibang laws eh. LTFRB released Memorandum Circular 2015-05-A, which says naman that the TNCs only need to do ordinary diligence. So, civil code natin, extraordinary diligence, you release circular na ordinary diligence. So, ano na nga ulit yung titingnan natin for the liability to come in, for the exception para hindi maging liable itong registered na company, no? Because they will be the ones liable. And also, paano mo mapoprove itong extraordinary diligence or ordinary diligence? So, diba, nagpapatong-patong tong mga aspeto na to na we have to address also so that we can craft a bill that addresses this, addresses the proper diligence required, and the liability. Sino ba talaga ang hahabulin? Is it the rider, the rider or the company? Because the company as common carriers has to be, kung public utility vehicle naman siya, ay dapat may registration, diba? As a public utility vehicle. Kapag naman private utility vehicle, papasok yung registered motor vehicle law na diretso kung sino ang nakaregister doon sa vehicle. So, di ba, maraming mga batas dito na kailangan po natin i-address, Mr. Chair, para gumanda ang ating pag-craft ng laws. Because this is not just for the motorcycle taxis. This is also for even the delivery riders, yung mga liability, di ba? Mga ganitong aspeto that maybe could be the president for liabilities when it comes to these kinds of operations. So, meron ba kayong siguro na pag-isipan dyan, na study dyan, or an answer with regard to liability, because that is important, especially that you, Mr. Chair, that they have said that there are accidents happening.
May I answer? I couldn't agree more with the good congressman. Yes, there are issues of liability, and which is all the more the reason why the House now should be able to craft a policy for this. What we have just made is a pilot study which we submitted to the committee. And yes, in the previous administration, they merely required an ordinary diligence, which as a lawyer, I may not probably agree, because a common carrier has another degree of diligence as far as the human foresight can see. So we may need to revisit this. Yes, I agree with you, and we will do it. But again, we have to submit our findings to the distinguished committee for them now to come up with the policy. We believe 4 years of technical working group on pilot study is more than enough for the House now to come up with its own version of the law. We submit, Mr. Chair.
So, Mr. Chair, I do understand that. Trabaho naman po talaga natin to, no? But yun, kung 4 years pa at yun nga, babalik tayo sa liability. While there is this pilot study, while there is also this movement to expand the coverage, to add more players, how do we address these issues now? Your guidelines, with all due respect to LTFRB, does not have guidelines for the due diligence required, who will be liable and all. And it is well within the mandate of LTFRB to give guidelines. And I'm hoping that masama po yun. Dahil nga po, paano nga pag magkaroon ng accidents, which is unavoidable? And this is very, very, very crucial to our people, all our constituents, everyone. Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I also agreed with the good congressman that for now, it's only the provisions of the civil code which takes is the enabling law for now, but we would also like to revisit this, and we will be giving our recommendations to the committee and to the good congressman for you to be enabled to craft up with a perhaps an enabling law. But yes, we admit yung civil code lang ho ang ginagamit namin for now.
Mr. Chair, kung magka-craft tayo ng enabling law, alam po natin matagal din po dito sa Congress, no? Because we have to have the votes of the members and look at that. But again, as I said earlier, you already crafted a memorandum circular anyway, creating ordinary diligence. And now you're saying civil code on extraordinary diligence. So kung nakapag-craft naman po ang LTFRB, with all due respect again, now memorandum circular on a certain, di ba, what the diligence is, can we not amend it to make it extraordinary diligence and give a guideline to the 3 players that we have now in terms of that?
Madam Congressman, yes, we will. For the record ho, hindi po kami it's not during my term when the policy was crafted. It was under the previous dispensation. We will revisit everything and we will submit to you the byproduct of our amended memorandum circular under my watch, which I only assume about 2 months ago, Madam Chair. Madam Congressman.
Mr. Chair, yun lang po. I mean, even if it was last few points lang, even if it was a previous administration, again, any memorandum circular can be amended.
Yes.
And I hope now this will be addressed because there is this pilot program ongoing. And habang, di ba, inaantay po natin to na napaka-malalim na issue, because we are also going to tackle and discuss about expansion of coverage and putting in more players. While wala din ganyan, sana po, huwag natin padagdagan ng players dahil mas maraming pwedeng maaksidente and all. And we have this controlled environment to see if this pilot program is really working. At the same time, mapag-aralan natin mabuti ang mga nangyayari dito within just a limited scope to craft a really good legislation under, of course, the chairman's guidance and the TWG committee. Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Gustillo, you want to say something?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Is it in
Apologies for-
relation with the issue raised by the Honorable Nograles?
It has connection with the prior issue, Mr. Chair,
Ay,
regarding the monitoring of the multi-homing and also a little bit of regarding the the ownership PSA, sir, Public Service Act. If I may, Mr. Chair.
very short.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
With
Please
regards
proceed.
po dun sa sa PSA, yung mga TNCs po kasi exempted po, hindi po sila, exempted po sila as public utility, hindi po sila public utility. So ang nagiging problema po dito, isa pa hong problema, yung ownership po ay pwede pong mapasok ng foreign companies. So halimbawa po sa TNVS yung Grab. So ang dami po nilang violations pero dahil hindi po sila public utility, medyo may problema po tayo. Anyways, it's something na maganda pong ma-review. With regards po doon sa multi-homing, Mr. Chair, sa aming pong pagtingin, maganda po sana na ma-engage po ang Department of Information and Communications Technology para po makatulong sa monitoring po ng database, para po mabilis po nilang ma-monitor kung meron pong mga riders na nagma-multi-homing, gaano kadalas po yung mga aksidente, nang sa ganun po hindi po mahirapan yung ating pong TWG doon po sa pag-monitor at pagbibigay po ng data. And at the same time, sa pagtingin po namin, hindi po dapat yung rider ang ma-penalize kung nag-multi-home sila. Dapat po may due diligence po ang kumpanya to check if the rider is already employed with another motorcycle taxi company.
If you will stay till the end of this hearing, that will be part of the issue that I will raise with the ICT. Thank you. The next to interpolate is the Honorable Ramon Gutierrez
Thank you,
from
Mr.
the
Chair.
minority.
Mr. Chair, we've discussed so far a lot of topics po, no? But I want to go back po to multi-homing because for the information of everyone, gumagalaw naman po yung ating TWG on the Motorcycle for Hire Act. So very interesting po, no? And I think I would be at liberty, Madam Vice Chair, no, to share about the draft. Because it seems to be that we are taking a different direction po, no? And I understand that multi-homing for the purpose of the pilot study would be something frowned upon. But in the TWG, it appears to afford our motorcycle riders a greater liberty, especially when considering the gig economy type of scenario that we have. We are allowing multi-homing po, no? So aside from the considerations of the pilot study, I understand we are against multi-homing in the pilot study because we want to make it easier to monitor po, no? Number one. And number two, because we are still at limbo about liabilities, we want to make it easier in tracing sinong TNC po yung in charge, no? But aside from these points, would the TWG from the DOTR have any input about multi-homing being included in the actual final bill, Mr. Chair?
LTFRB.
Mr. Chair, in all candor, we have not totally discussed about the multi-homing, and we would be relying heavily on the ICT on issues of multi-homing as of this time. The focus of the pilot study is more on the road safety and the economic aspects. So on that, I cannot really answer the good congressman on the issue of multi-homing, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it appears on that end, no, it would still be up to the TWG in Congress for the bill. So we have no concrete opinion on multi-homing. That is good to hear because one consideration we have, of course, is to take in, of course, the expert opinion ng TWG ng executive. But moving on po, no, if that is not an issue, we are very much interested in this new idea of the administration. I think it's novel. First time to hear yung tukol sa transport cooperative as being a model. I don't know if we skip, maybe hear po, Mr. Chairman, from the DOTR OTC on how exactly they see this coming into fruition. Thank you,
Mr.
Mr. Chair.
Chair, the
Yes, you have the
chairman
floor.
of the Office of Transport Cooperative is here with me purposely to answer those issues. May I yield to the chairman of the OTC, Mr. Andy
Please proceed.
Ortega.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Congressman. On the part of OTC, we are very much excited if this law will allow that the motorcycle taxis will be allowed, no? Because as per the OTC guidelines or rules, pwede naman po, no? There's no limit for us to accept them if they will apply and join and form as a cooperative, like what we're doing with the tricycles and also the public utility vehicles. They are allowed to form as a cooperative and be part of the OTC, because there are many benefits that that can be availed. Like example, what was presented by our TWG chairman, like pwede po sila magkakaroon na dun ng maybe benefits as SSS member, pag-ibig, and also like a normal cooperative, meron silang proseso wherein they can have certain financial benefits like mga incentives, year incentives, or maybe they could change their form of income into like a daily wage. So the opportunities for our our motorcycle to form into cooperatives will be a big incentive for them, Mr. Congressman.
Mr. Chair, thank you for that. I shared my opinion that this is very novel to consider the motorcycle taxi arrangement because as far as we're concerned with the community, ang nakikita po na ating mga riders ay parang gig economy dapat po ito, no? So they sometimes ride-hailing app sila, sometimes delivery rider sila. So that would be their kind of scenario. But as we see in the pilot study, yung iba po nagiging full-time riders. So it would make sense to make it a cooperative to a certain degree. But Mr. Chair, I'd like to ask the DOTR OTC, kapag sila po ay naging cooperative, this would mean one TNC, one cooperative. Most probably po, no? Because I don't think riders can group together from different TNCs. Is that correct, Mr. Chair?
That would be very much considered, no? Yeah, that decision kung one TNC, no, one cooperative, but we could have different ideas para on the part of OTC and through the TWG makapag-suggest po kami or recommend regarding that concern.
Mr. Chair, but as it stands for the TWG, where do we stand? Is it one TNC, one cooperative, or multi-TNC?
I'll be very honest with you, Mr. Congressman, wala pa sa usapin
Okay.
po namin yon. Yung level na yun, wala pa. That's why, if you notice, we're very much big ears kami ngayon among all of you, Mr. Congressman, to hear all of the inputs that you're saying. Kasi we are very much interested to go to our meetings at TWG to really input all of the things that you raised.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just share this kasi it's very exciting. I think this is the effect of having an LTFRB man at the helm of the TWG, no, to consider such out-of-the-box principles like co-op for these transport riders. But one concern that I would like to share, Mr. Chairman, is that if we are to take this stand, correct me if I'm wrong, the idea of a co-op makes sense for jeeps and tricycle riders because they deal directly with the consumer, with the riders. But if we are to consider a co-op dealing with the TNC, isn't that suspiciously like a company union in which all of the riders will be answerable to only one corporation, but have none of the liabilities of an employer? And I take exception, Mr. Chair, because very interesting a while ago in the explanation of the chairman of the TWG, dun po in relation to yung lista ng ating mga riders and how do we prevent multi-homing, he used the term employer. So it seems to presuppose that kind of condition na if we are to go with this, baka magiging joint committee po, Mr. Chair, Transpo and Dole. May I hear an opinion, Mr. Chair, from the chairman of the TWG or perhaps the DOTR?
Mr. Chair, with regards to your question as to whether these are, if a cooperative is formed, if later on the liability is shifted. I believe that the concept of a cooperative is for those who are in the same occupation to form themselves up and come up with their set of officers for purposes of monitoring the business. But again, this is very fluid, sir, and we leave it all up to the House on how to determine the conduct of these TNCs in relation to a cooperative. But for now, we are positive and optimistic that these riders can come up with an organization or a cooperative, since they have one common thing, which is TN in the business of TNC, and they can come up with an organization for their mutual benefit. But we leave it to your good graces how you would address this issue when you craft a law, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, this representation understands how fluid the situation is right now. And this is not to inhibit po, no? We do appreciate the creativity and we look forward to it. Hopefully, we could have some guidelines on that crafted before our next TWG meeting on the Motorcycle for Hire Act, at least so that we can take in some input from that. Mr. Chair, I'd like to take, if okay with you, Mr. Chair, with the utmost respect, 2 minutes. One last question, because we've had the discussion about opening up the pilot study po, no? And I think it was clear from the interpellation earlier that we seem to be at a legal limbo, no? Neither here nor there, according to the TW chairman. So considering that po, no, that this pilot study as it stands is a legal limbo, both in guidelines and in legal backing, would it be a safe position? Would the TLB chairman share their position that would it be safe to expand this even further by crafting new guidelines, or would it be safer still to just rely on the current pilot study? Because after all, it was mentioned that this was created by virtue of a Congress resolution for the purpose of only exploring po, no, yung road safety aspect. But if we are going to use this as a means just because of the idea of opening it up to more players and riders, don't get us wrong, Mr. Chair, no, we support all avenues for increasing employment for our riders. Sang-ayon po kami doon. Pero given the legal limbo and the delicacies, the delicateness of this issue, honestly, Mr. Chair, kung ma-question to sa Supreme Court, baka may problema po tayo eh. If we are to do this, would this not be arrogating upon ourselves powers not vested by law, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, I would like to answer this in this manner. This is just a pilot study only for the purposes of crafting a law. The lifespan of this study is only for a limited period of time. Whatever rights are given to the riders are there not by virtue of the House resolution, but because of the what we called by Congresswoman Nograles, by virtue of the Civil Code, which defines the liability of a rider in relation to the riding public. I believe that Congress has the power to conduct these studies. I believe that you have the power to continue with the studies for purposes of determining if this is applicable in other parts of the country. Because for now, this is only limited to Manila, Cebu, and Cagayan de Oro. For the Congress to be able to craft an encompassing law, I believe there is a need to further study and come up with other participants in other urban areas so that we may really totally appreciate the impact of this motorcycle taxi. That is my personal opinion, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for with that respect. Just one follow-up on that, Mr. Chair, no, because I truly appreciate that answer, but I'm going to draw now some points from Chairman Paduano, as earlier mentioned. Kasi ang nakikita po natin is supposedly limited function pilot study. But it seems that the TWG would, from time to time, craft guidelines that would build upon itself. My question, Mr. Chair, and this is for all of us here in the committee, to what extent po ang delegation of this power to the TWG? Do they have the power to add territorial jurisdiction? Do they have the power to add new riders? I'm not saying we have the answers right now, Mr. Chair, but I think this is something that we should consider because so far, nakikita po natin, the TWG has at first in 2019 drafted guidelines with a specific set of riders. And I think at that time, it was only Metro Manila and Metro Cebu. Yes. But then the TWG on its own, without Congress initiative, included CDO and added more riders. And then it appears now they're now considering other areas to expand. So, Mr. Chair, at what point does TWG take off where Congress does not have a say anymore? Yun lang po, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
May I briefly answer the
Yes.
good congressman? Mr. Chair, in one of our hearings with the upper house, there was a recommendation made by the Committee on Transportation headed by Senator Grace Poe to expand this study to include other players. Though this was just a verbal instruction, which was though on record, we took it seriously and we are studying the impact of further expanding this study. But we are still in the stage of trying to evaluate the suggestion of the upper house, which we will also submit to the lower house for your own appreciation and for your own recommendation at a later time, sir. After we have crafted a supposedly an amended memorandum circular for the technical working group, we submit, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. ASEC, are you aware of Department Order number 2023-004 dated February 2023? Where the TWG concerning motorcycle taxis, all other department orders were amended?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I believe in that department order, the chairmanship of the TWG was given to the LTFRB, of which I am the head, Mr. Chair.
And in that department order, there's a policy stated there of the Department of Transportation. This department's recent policy to increase the number of available motorcycle taxi units operating nationwide in order to address the demand for additional means of transportation.
Yes, we are aware of that policy, but again, we all, as a matter of courtesy to both houses, before we would even craft a policy, we would have to submit it to you, since this pilot study was a creation of the house, so we need to submit it to you for your own consideration.
The chair would acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Philemon Espares, Chairman of the Committee on Ethics and Privileges, representing Party List Co-op NATCO. Welcome po. The next interpellator would be the Honorable Brian Yamsuan. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. But before I start my query on the matter, Mr. Chair, I would like to ask the distinguished gentleman from the LTFRB, our chairman, Attorney Guadis. Are you aware of Department Order 2018-12? Kasi si Congresswoman Nograles asked earlier about yung sa liability. And you have a department order which he mentioned the 2015 DO eh. Pero mayroon na ho kayong 2018 na DO na nag-state dun sa liabilities. Yung section 8 and 9, maliwanag na po dun yung description ng batas. So, are you aware of this, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I have to beg the indulgence of the good congressman. I may need to revisit that. I'm not totally aware of that existing department order. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Okay lang yan, Mr. Chair, kasi we would like to inform you about the DO para at least next time you kumbaga answer the question of the good congresswoman from PBA party list, you can accurately answer her in terms of the liabilities and all the penalties na kailangan nating pag-aralan dun sa batas. But anyway, Mr. Chair, thank you for that. And thank you for answering honestly, Mr. Chair. I would like to address siguro yung question ko, Mr. Chair, dun sa ating mga riding app. Akala mo, Mr. Chair, yung potential nitong motorcycle taxis is a very viable talagang source of transport for our commuters. And we see with the current traffic situation that we have right now, sila yung pinakamabilis na talaga magdadala sa ating mga kababayan doon sa kanilang mga pupuntahan. And one concern lang talaga, Mr. Chair, na aking talagang tinitignan lagi is yung safety ng ating riding public. And I would like to address this to the different riding apps, whether your position on the recent safety concerns involving motorcycle taxis. And do you think that yung safety is assured sa ating riding public in terms of yung kanilang ano? Kasi nakita ko naman yung ratings nyo eh. Almost 99% lahat yung safety ng ating ano, because you have your retraining and you have your, kumbaga, lagi yung tinitignan yung safety rin ng ating mga commuters. Pero how can you assure the public about it?
Yes, Angkas is recognized.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much for that question. Doon po sa aming training, talaga pong binubusisi namin yung safety guidelines and yung safety mindset po ng ating riders. And it's not just one time. Paulit-ulit po yung training natin, and we have refresher courses. Although there is no such thing as 100% guarantee on accidents, with that, with those that do meet an accident, there is insurance coverage that we process and make sure that is afforded to every customer as well as every biker. So we take all the necessary precautions. I believe also above and beyond what is mandated, and this is really to ensure, no, kasi dumaan po kami sa butas ng karayom in really proving kung talaga po bang ligtas ang paggagamit ng motorsiklo sa pampublikong transportasyon. It's been almost 7-year battle on our end po sa Angkas. And ito pong commitment to safety is something that we take seriously on a daily basis and moving forward, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, let's recognize Mofit.
Yeah. Move it and joyride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Of course, sir, safety also is of paramount importance to motorcycle taxi. No, hindi lang naman sa Move It. I'm sure for Angkas and Joyride as well. So aside from that po, no, aside from the trainings, aside from the insurance, we also remind our riders of regularly checking their vehicles. Kasi kahit po gaano kagaling ang ating rider, kung may problema na po ang gulong niyan, ang preno, ang motorsiklo, ma-aksidente pa rin po. Kaya po sa Move It po, no, we constantly remind them to maintain their motorcycle, and nagkakaroon din po kami ng regular checks ng mga motorcycles nila to ensure yung safety not only of the riders but also of the passengers. And we want also to leverage on technology when it comes to safety, no? So we, like, if you're a passenger, meron po kami functionality where we you can share the ride po, no, para malaman natin na safe talaga makakauwi yung pasahero natin. Pwede nila i-send yun sa loved ones nila, sa mga kamag-anak nila, to ensure the safety of the passengers. So yun po ang sa Move It. Thank you po.
Thank you, Move It. Joyride has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to echo also the statements and sentiments of both players. As far as Joyride is concerned, we are safety is one of our primordial interests, Your Honor. We take our part in this pilot study not as an opportunity but as a privilege and a responsibility, Your Honor. And aside from the vetting that is very strenuous and very thorough, aside from the retraining and the updating, as mentioned also, we have regular upgrades and checkups of all the vehicles. In fact, in the guidelines, there are limitations to the number of years of a motorcycle, and it must be replaced. No? We also have gone, as George has mentioned, over and beyond what is required by the guidelines, Your Honor. We have field marshals that we have in Joyride in order to assure that our riders are randomly but regularly inspected and checked, including the passengers. And from a technical perspective, Your Honor, we continue to upgrade our app to ensure that not only safety but security of our passengers is assured. And so we are able to monitor not only the actual booking but also the actual travel and trip of our riders. So all of these, Your Honor, we are doing because of the privilege and responsibility that has been given to us by the pilot study.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I asked the question, Mr. Chair, because there was a recent incident involving an accident by a riding app, which Mr. Ariel Lim mentioned kanina, yung Maxim motorcycle taxi. Kasi kaya ako papunta ron kasi yung tanong natin, di ba, dahil wala siyang accreditation from the DWG, wala din siyang license sa DICT. So ang tanong lang natin, kumbaga, yung accreditation, di ba, doon sa mga riding apps. Kumbaga, yung sa tingin nyo ba, yung batas will, kumbaga, avoid the gray market na mangyayari? And you think, kumbaga, yung panahon na ba na parang yung gaya ng concern ni Mr. Ariel Lim na talagang magkaroon lang tayo ng cap doon sa ating mga riding apps?
Mr. Chair, may I answer that query? If I recall, the wisdom of the House in creating this pilot study is to address the issue of habal-habal. Ito po yung mga kolorum, kumukuha ng mga pasahero. The intent of the House in 2019 is to give a legal semblance or a clothing para naman malegalize itong mga habal-habal, and that in the event of an accident, they can have a legal, at least sir, meron hong sasalo sa kanila, meaning to say a company to handle them. So may ganitong mga pag-aaral po. Primarily to address that issue. So yes, I agree with you, sir, that there is really a need now to legitimize this. Otherwise, sir, the issue of habal-habal will remain unchecked indefinitely. Yun lang po sa akin po, Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, I mentioned this because I was part of the transport sector also. During my college days, I sidelined as a taxi driver to be able to finish college. So, nakikita ko yung concern ni Mr. Ariel Lim at saka yung ating distinguished congressman from the city of Taguig and Pateros. Talagang, kasi alam nyo yung opportunities binibigay sa mga tao. Tayo yung sinerte dahil umabot tayo dito sa posisyon na to kahit na nanggaling tayo sa pagiging taxi driver ng bata tayo. Ang sa akin lang kasi, may concern din sila regarding dun sa issue ng policy. And I think yung policy nyo, you should really look at it very carefully because it affects the future of an individual. Kumbaga, pagka pinagbawalan mo ang isang organisasyon na maghanap buhay at hindi sila mabigyan ng oportunidad upang makagawa ng magandang kinabukasan para sa kanilang sarili, napakasakit ho nun, di ba? Napakinggan sa ating mga kababayan kasi most of our workers in the gig economy, which Congressman Gutierrez told us, are really yung mga dreamers yung mga naghahanap ng kinabukasan para sa kanilang pamilya. And I hope that the committee and the technical working group will really study hard the concerns of Congressman Ading Cruz and the concerns of the different transport sectors that have position papers in terms of this bill. And Mr. Chairman, yun lang po ang gusto kong sabihin sa kanila and ako ay nagpapasalamat po sa oras na ibinigay niyo sa akin. Maraming salamat po.
Thank you. The next interpellator would be the Honorable Dagook. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, everyone. I would just like to first ask LTFRB, ano po yung pinaka-latest na basihan ninyo dito sa na memo or circular issued by your department for the reconstitution of the TWG? Is it House resolution as in 2019?
Mr. Chair, may I answer? Ang basihan po ng LTFRB dun sa ginawa naming latest circular is a department order issued by Secretary Jaime Bautista. It's Department Order 2023-004. Ito po yung latest, reorganizing the composition of the technical working group, making the LTFRB as the head of the technical working group to oversee the pilot study. Other than that po, wala naman po kaming dinagdag doon sa initial memorandum circular, which was exactly a reproduction of the House resolution po na ginawa noong 2019.
So Mr. Chair, hindi po itong Department Order 2022-021, hindi po ito yung nagiging basis sa usapin natin ngayon.
Mr. Chair, ang basihan po natin ngayon is 2023-004, which was issued on February 17, 2023. Yes, sir.
So Mr. Chair, nandoon po sa memo na yon kasi wala ko ang kopya ko kasi I have only 2022-021. So can you tell us the contents of that resolution? Yung resolution na sinabi nyo as the basis of the circular.
Mr. Chair, may I answer? In essence, ang contents lang ng department order is the revised composition of the MC Taxi Technical Working Group, transferring the chairmanship from LTO to LTFRB. Other than that, wala hong...
On the basis of, Mr. Chair, yung House Resolution 2019, based on the original circular.
Yes, sir. It was based on the House resolution on the pending bills in both houses of Congress that seeks to amend RA 4136. House Resolution 2449 strongly urged the Department of Transportation to conduct a pilot implementation on the operation of motorcycle taxis. Yes, sir. It was based on the House Resolution
It's not,
2449.
Mr. Chair, it's not on House Bill 10571, the latest one, which was approved on third reading last December 6, 2021.
Sir, it was also taken into consideration proposed House bill entitled an act regulating the use of motorcycles for hire, which was approved on the third regular session of the 18th Congress on December 6, 2021 under House Committee Report number 1364. This was also the basis. But the first basis po, which is the older one, was the 2449 resolution of 2017. And this one was also a basis of the department order, sir. It was approved by the House on its third reading.
So for the record, Mr. Chair, the resolution of 2019 and House Bill approved on third reading on 2021 was stipulated on the latest memo circular reconstituting the TWG. It was all stated.
Yes, it was stated, sir, in Department Order number 2022-021. These two House resolutions were noted and were stated in the latest DO issued by the Department of Transportation.
Yung
With the
2023-004.
with the indulgence of the Honorable Dago, could you please, do you have a copy of 2023-004? Nabanggit ba talaga yung tinatanong ni Honorable Dago? Only House Resolution number 2449 was mentioned insofar as that department order is concerned. The others were not mentioned. I do not know. You answer the questions of Honorable Dago properly. That is what I know.
Mr. Chair, I have with me a copy of DO 2022-021.
No, 2023-004.
004.
Yun ang tanong ni Honorable Dago eh.
Kasi that's the latest eh.
Sir, the 2023 Department Order merely adopts the order of 2022. Ang nag-iba lang po doon, nagpalit lang po ng members ng Technical Working Group. Other than that, it incorporated all the provisions of the previous department order, sir.
Okay.
So thank you for the honest answer and clarification. No? Now, these are some of my recommendations, Mr. Chair. No? Instead of involving interpellation. First, no, since based on the latest circular reconstituting the TWG, and based on the previous circular, you are authorized to issue, no, if necessary, additional guidelines on this TWG is authorized that. May I recommend that first, you should include if you will issue supplemental guidelines, because we continue the pilot testing despite the sunset provision of House resolution of the previous memo that it only lasts for 6 months. Malinaw po yung 2019, dapat 6 months lang kayo pero pinalawig po yun. So first, you need to establish a uniform insurance coverage. Hindi po yung paiba-iba kasi pare-pareho naman po yun. Yung pinag-usapan natin na riding public at yung public utility man yan o hindi, pare-pareho lang po sila. So that's one. Dapat uniform po yung coverage nila, hindi yung kay Mr. Kay Attorney Ayala, mas marami yatang benefits yung rider. Then second, napansin ko po doon sa section 3 nung 2022-021 may typo error po doon. Pakitingnan na lang doon sa section 3 na doon sa 2022-021 kasi sabi po ninyo, Mr. Chair, inadapt lang po ng latest yung 2023-004, yung dalawa, yung 2019 at saka 2021. May typo error po doon. Ayaw ko na pong sabihin, which is wala pong nakapansin doon. Very basic po na grammatical error yon. Then, this representation, Mr. Chair, would also like to request for the list, no, yung data on the beneficiaries of the insurance na para lang makita ko na mayroon nga kayong insurance, hindi naman ako naniwala na walang aksidente nangyari for the whole duration na in-implement yung pilot na to testing kasi mag-aapat na taon na eh. So just submit to the committee sino yung all the riders company, sino-sino po yung nagbi-benefit na mga ano. Then yung I would just like also to recommend na dapat time bounded po yung pilot na to kasi ad hoc lang po naman to. Then you are authorized through a MC na mag-issue ng mga guidelines. Parang hindi po tama yon na tuloy-tuloy lang kasi kita mo ini-expand na ninyo original 2019 Metro Manila Cebu, ini-expand na ninyo ng Cagayan de Oro. Nasa tingin ko, yung Metro Manila at saka Cebu, tama na po yun na makapag-decide tayo. Kasi malaking area po yung Metro Manila at saka Cebu. Dinagdagan pa natin. Kaya nagka-problema yung sila ni Mr. Lim na may umaagaw na daw, nagiging isyo. Kasi from 27,000, 39 na po because you expanded. Para bala yung authority ninyo parang ano na, parang kongreso na. Then yun, may magkaroon tayo ng sunset provision kung kailan to matapos, kung kailan to matapos. So that's all, Mr. Chair. Maraming salamat sa time.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Congresswoman Pancho is not around. The Honorable Marcoleta is recognized to be the next interpolator. You have the floor, sir.
Maraming salamat po, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, gusto ko pong malaman muna kailan po nagsimula talaga yung pilot study. Anong exact?
Chairman.
Sir, the study initially started in 2019. However, during the period of the pandemic, this was suspended, sir, and again resumed on 2020. Uh, 4 years, Mr. Chair. Yes, Mr. Chair, and for the record, we have already submitted the findings of the pilot study to the committee for its appreciation.
When did you submit the study to the committee, Mr. Chair?
It was submitted sometime in February 28, 2021, when a report was given to the committee on the result on the survey of motorcycle for hire and its recommendations.
Is that correct, Mr. Chair, that a report was already submitted by the TWG to this committee of its findings?
May I say something, Mr. Chair, further?
No. You just said that you already
28,
submitted
yes.
the report to the
Yes.
committee.
On 28, yes, but I noticed we also submitted again another report on December 16, 2022, which is the position paper on the proposed bill to allow and regulate public utility motorcycles for hire. So dalawa, I stand corrected, sir. We submit one in February 2021, but again, we submitted the latest one was December 16, 2022.
What is that report submitted in 2021, if it is true that you submitted one?
It was more on the recommendation to continue with it's a recommendation for the passage of
I
an
thought you submitted a report already.
Yes, sir.
My understanding, Mr. Chair, is that considering that the House of Representatives allowed, I presume, the pilot study to take place. So it started in 2019, interrupted by the pandemic, but until now it is operating. But the chairman is saying that they already submitted. I think it is a partial report. I was assuming that a partial report was submitted on the success of the study, meaning some findings have already been known to us, like safety consideration, security consideration of the passengers, etc., etc. Did we receive something like that? That justifies the continuation of the pilot study until today? We're not talking about recommendations. I am trying to ask you whether there has been some success in the study, in the pilot study, which you were allowed to undertake through the TWG.
Mr. Chair.
Meron po ba, Mr. Chair?
Yes, we have here a study.
What did you find out in the study for the appreciation of this committee?
There were recommendations on safety, security, and franchising and regulatory procedures. May mga recommendations po kami na binigay sa committee and on law enforcement issues.
So if that is so, what justifies the continuation of the pilot study until today and the expansion of other riders from an initial X number? It now catapulted to about 45,000 riders. Bakit po lumaki ng lumaki? Hindi pa ba sapat yung ginawa niyong study na nakita na natin na merong success pala, maganda pala, o hindi maganda?
Can I take 1 minute? Kaya gumawa na ito. Yeah, so pwede mo sagutin yung tanong. Can you answer the question? Yeah. Can you answer?
While you are looking at your records, Mr. Chair, I recall in 2018, a regional trial court in Mandaluyong allowed the operation of angkas. I just recall, I read somewhere. But it was a short-lived operation. I think the Supreme Court issued a TRO. That was in 2018. What happened there? Angkas, nandito ba kayo? Is it true that a Mandaluyong trial court allowed you to operate
Mr.
in
Chair,
2018?
Mr. Chair, may I answer? It was a declaratory relief that was filed po in the regional trial
Then you
court
were allowed to operate.
by virtue po of an injunction.
And later in the year, you were TRO'd by the Supreme Court.
Na TRO po yung injunction, tapos binalik po sa RTC for further continuation of
So,
the case.
Mr. Chair, I want to know what happened there because kailangan malaman natin na TRO kayo. Ano nangyari?
Sir, I believe we're still waiting on the decision of the regional trial court up to today.
You believe that you're waiting for the decision of the trial court?
It's not resolved, sir, as of today.
Kaya nga.
Apo.
But there is an existing injunction coming from the Supreme Court.
Ang in-injunction po niya, yung injunction po ng RTC.
So ano nangyari?
Yung
What is your interpretation when the injunction was injunctioned by the Supreme Court?
Opo.
Ano ba ng kalokohan naman?
Oo nga po. So,
Ha?
so ang pagkaalam ko po,
Yan ang pagkakaalam mo, Mr. Chair, I'm clarifying what happened because pinayagan kayo.
Apo.
And then somehow the Supreme Court issued whatever. Is it a TRO? Is it an injunction? Is it a prohibition? This what?
No, sir. If I may, actually po, pinagbawalan po kami ng...
Ayun, pinagbawalan.
Hindi po. Pinagbawalan po kami ng DOTR sa umpisa. Tapos nag-file po kami ng declaratory relief. Yung pagbawal po ng DOTR, yun po yung in-injunction ng RTC. Tapos po umakyat po sa Supreme Court, in-injunction po ng Supreme Court yung injunction sa pagbawal ng DOTR. So parang nag-status quo lang po. And then the Supreme Court binalik po sa RTC to continue on with the case.
And so you are operating on a legal limbo.
At that time, yes, sir.
What about now?
Right now, we are operating on the virtue of the pilot study.
Okay.
Your Honor.
Sige. So, Mr. Chair, balik tayo sa TWG study. Bakit po parang lamilitaw 3 lamang po ang pinili ninyo na mag-participate sa public study, notably Angkas, Move It, and Joyride. Bakit po, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chair, may I answer? There are 7 interested participants at that time, but only Angkas, Joyride, and Move It managed to qualify the vetting process. So hindi ho namin nilimit sa tatlo. But because there were parameters issued way back in 2020, and of these parameters, itong tatlo lang po ito ang nakapag-comply doon sa mga requirements po ng
Ano po yung
technical
vetting process, Mr. Chair? Para po masiguro natin na tatlo lang ang nag-qualify.
May I check on that at a later time, sir? Kasi wala pa po ako sa LTFRB at that time. I'd like to
Okay,
revisit my
I will help you. For example, an applicant trying to be included in the pilot study. He presented all the documents which appears to be or which appeared to be proper and regular, starting from let's say registration with the Securities and Exchange Commission, and also membership with the ano ba itong board natin ng Cooperative. Meron tayong cooperative, anong pangalan nun?
It's the Office of Transport Cooperative.
It was
The
endorsed
chairman
by
is here.
the OTC, the Office of the Transport Cooperative. It was also endorsed by the Cooperative Board of the Philippines, whatever is that called. And it was submitted to your office on February 6, 2023. This representation reviewed all the documents also, because the officers of that particular applicant came to my office. There are too many, about 2,500 riders, pero yung kanilang officials nagpunta sa akin. So I personally reviewed their documents. Nakita ko nga in-endorse siya ng OTC. Sabi mo kanina, Mr. Representative from the Office of the Transport Cooperative, you are inviting them, you are encouraging them to participate. Pero ito po, tiningnan ko maganda naman, and the letter was February 6, 2023, addressed to the chairman of the LTFRB, Mr. Chair. Ngayon po, dahil sa nakita ko naman po na mukhang tama naman po lahat, I am sorry, pero sa sarili ko pong appreciation, kahit paano po, naintindihan ko naman po yung mga documents na naka-attached doon sa kanilang letter. Ako na po yung nagkusa na after 1 month, personally po akong pumunta sa LTFRB para tanungin ko po kung ano yung status ng sulat submitted a month earlier. Nagkataon naman po, wala roon si Chairman Guadis dahil meron po silang provincial na meeting, mga regional meetings po. So nagbilin po ako sa secretary kung ano na po yung status, sana po tingnan mabuti. So, Mr. Chair, 4 months later, wala rin naman pong isinagot sa akin. Kahit na naman po sana tinext man lang po ako nung secretary na, sorry po Mr. Congressman, wala pong kakwenta-kwenta po kasi yung nag-apply kaya hindi namin po papayagan. Kahit na text message lang, Mr. Chair. Ako po nagpunta roon on my own time kasi nakita ko yung sulat. Kung wala po sanang endorsement no less than by the DOTR at saka yung OTC at saka yung Cooperative Development of the Philippines, kumpleto po eh. O paano po sasabihin natin ngayon na may vetting process kayo na hindi lamang nalimit sa 3? I have nothing personal with the 3 at nalalaman ko nakakatulong siguro kayo dahil nga sa problematic na issue ng transportation natin and traffic and so on and so forth. I can see that. Ako nga po personally nag-benefit sa habal-habal eh. Noon po kami nagkakampanya sa Unity, Mr. Chair, in Sultan Kudarat. At saka sa Maguindanao, si Jingo Estrada naman po, iniwan kasi ako doon sa kanyang ano ba ito, yung chopper. Nabalaho na po ako sa traffic. Ginamit na parking yung lahat ng kalsada. 10 minutes na lang po. Magsisimula na po. Mawawala naman ako sa eksena. Nakita ko po yung habal-habal. 3 kilometro na lang po, makakarating na ako eh. Nakipagsapalaran na po ako, sumakay po ako. Nakarating po ako on time, Mr. Chair. Hindi ko naman po kinukonsinti. Hindi ko naman po sinasabi. Yung po, siguradong delikado ang buhay ko ron eh. Wala naman po siyang ibinigay kasi wala naman siyang help. Wala kaming, sabi ko, sige, bahala na ako. Makarating lang ako doon sa unit team. Pero going back to that, ano po yung vetting process na sinasabi? 45,000 riders today are participating in this pilot project. Hanggang ngayon po ba hindi natin na-determine kung anong gagawin natin dito? Tama po yung ni-raise po na punto kanina ng isang congressman si Honorable Gutierrez. Yung TWG is not in a position to grant an authority for such a long time. Nang wala tayo. Parang kayo po nagbibigay na ng prangkisa eh. Pagkatapos 3 lamang po ang pinili ninyo at the exclusion of the others. How can you explain that? Pagkatapos po, ang sabi ninyo kanina, na-extend naman po kasi dahil sinabi po ng isang senator eh. Sinabi lang niya, in-extend natin. Batas po ba yun? Dito po kami sa House, nagtataka kami kung bakit tumagal. 45,000 riders. Yun pong mga survey firms natin ngayon, Mr. Chair. Let's say, sino ba yung ating mga survey firms ngayon? Pulse Asia, SWS. Alam niyo yung kanilang sample, 1,200, 2,500 at most. They're supposed to validate economic and social parameters, the trust rating and all this. Kung alin pinakamabangong sabon, pinakamasarap na patis, they are surveying all this. But they need only a sample. Kasi scientific naman ito, sabi niya. Hindi namin kinakailangan, sabi niya, 10 million samples. 1,200, 2,500 samples are enough for us to validate a particular sentiment of our people at a given time. Pati trust rating ng President and Vice President. And the people take it as a gospel truth already. Pero pilot project natin ngayon, 3 lamang ang pinili ninyo, 45,000 riders and continuing and counting. Mr. Chair, ano po, saan pa papunta ito? Aren't we supposed to have already taken all the things that we wanted para po bigay nyo na sa amin so that this report can be an essential input for the House of Representatives to already start crafting or amending Republic Act 4136 on whether or not we should include these riders and consider them already as public utility vehicles. Ang nangyayari po dito, pasensya na po kayo pero parang may favoritismo na rito. The question is, why did you limit it to only 3? Mr. Chair, I'd like to have a very honest answer here.
Chairman, could you please answer the query of the Honorable Marcoleta?
Mr. Chair, as to issue why this was limited into 3 again, ang sagot ko po is that this was the original vetting process done in 2020. When I came in 3 months ago, I was revisiting the entire policy and I merely continued what the previous technical working group did. So I did not limit it into 3. As of now, sir, for the record, there are about 4 more applicants with us and there is an ongoing vetting process. However, I have to suspend this. As a matter of courtesy, we will be taking the cue from the House if they will allow us to further proceed with the study. we have already made our recommendation to the House in 2023. And based on that, we are awaiting for your determination whether to proceed with this or not. The study has been terminated, but the policy of allowing them to continue remains, in deference also to a request from the upper house for us to further expand the study. But for now, we are not expanding any study. We are merely trying to continue it until the time that we were called for this hearing, perhaps to be given wisdom from the committee on what to do with the existing pilot study. It was not in my time, sir, no.
So,
nangyari
Mr.
po
Chair,
yun.
it's a very subjective betting process.
With the indulgence of the Honorable Marcoleta, may I? Thank you. Mr. Chairman, I have a report of the executive summary on motorcycle taxi submitted by then as acting chairman ng Motorcycle Taxi Technical Working Group, si Asek Galvante. Nowhere in your executive summary report did you state what were the requirements for any applicant to pass or to be able to participate dito sa motorcycle taxi pilot project. Because according to you, there were 7 participants supposed to be, but you just limited it to 3. Yun ang sinabi dito sa report.
Yes, sir.
So, yung tanong ni Honorable Marcoleta, bakit tatatlo? 7 yung applicants. Now, you say, you had a vetting process. Now, may I know, ano yung mga requirements nyo noon? Para malaman natin kung bakit hindi nakapasa yung 4, 3 lang ang napili ninyo. Pakisagot yung
Yes,
tanong
sir.
ni Honorable Marcoleta. Basically, yun ang tanong niya.
Yes, sir. Sir, may I yield to the then chairman of the technical working group, the IAC is here.
Will you be able to answer that question?
Yes, sir. As far as
Were you part of the technical working group then?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
As,
You have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you po, Congressman Marcoleta, for the question. I'm part of the former technical working group, and as of today, been part of the subcommittee on inspection and monitoring. And the parameters that were used then, unang-una po, dapat po, tama po yung sabi ni Congressman Marcoleta, it is with SEC, Security and Exchange Commission. Meron po mga mayor's permit, business permit, of course normal po yun sa isang transport network company. Ang isa pa po, tinignan doon, they should have a training facility that they could conduct training for the safety, to ensure the safety at saka yung skill po ng mga riders, talaga pong karapat-dapat sila na ma-hire as part of the TNC. Ang pangalawa po, during that time is a pandemic, mayroon po mga parameters about mga COVID requirements ng National Task Force ng IATF. Kasama rin po yung sa mga in-inspect namin. And above all po, at saka ipapasa pa po yung insurance na requirements na inihingi po natin. At ang pinaka-foremost po noon is yung ready operation. Dapat po, if bibigyan po sila ng, isasama po sila sa pilot study, could they operate immediately? Because as far as we know po, a pilot study should be under a confined environment. Kaya po yung hukuming kanina, hindi po pinapayagan yon kasi mamamadel po yung number na binigay na cap. Baka po iba-iba na yung number na pinipresent ng bawat players. Kaya po, doon po sa isang binasa po ni Congressman Padua kanina, they could not join other Angkas Joyride or Move It. Pwede po siguro sila mag-join sa Lala Move or Grab for that matter, pero not with the other members of the pilot study. Kaya po yun na ganun po yun. So, we conduct inspection on site kasama po yung ibang members ng TWG, PNP, MMDA, HPG, LTO, kasama po sa inspection namin yan. Nandito po yung 3 players and we made sure na yung pong binigay na parameter na vetting process ng TWG ay mamit po nila. Yan lang po. Thank you po.
Honorable Marcoleta, are you satisfied with the answer?
No. Mr. Chair, I will ask that guy who answered. Saan po kayong opisina?
I'm with the Interagency Council for Traffic po.
And you are a member of the TWG.
Yes sir, as of now po ay may kumbaga po
Yes lang naman.
Yes sir.
Yung Office for Transport Cooperative is a member of the TWG.
Your Honor, allowed to answer? Yes,
No,
po.
tinatanong ko lang.
Yes, Congressman. Member po ako sa TWG. And
Okay. If the letter application of a prospective applicant to be included in the pilot study was endorsed by no less than the Office for Transport Cooperative, which is a member of the TWG, among others, di ba niyo siya bibigyan ng pansin?
yeah, allow me to answer, Chair. Yeah, backgrounder lang po, no? When I assumed office February this year, after a month, napakita sa akin that a certain cooperative po, no? I will not mention the name, was endorsed by my predecessor po, si OIC then. And when I saw that, and then eventually po, naging member ako ng TWG, I made a position po that I will endorse also this cooperative to be part of the player ng MC Taxi once we open it. In fact, I had, I think, 2 or 3 communication po dun sa chairperson ng cooperative, and I told her and I told him, yung one of the officers, that being an OTC, chairman, under ko yung mga cooperatives, and I saw the credentials, the records po of this cooperative, sabi ko, maayos, maganda yung kanilang kooperatiba, and they are very much willing to be part of this pilot study. So on my part, as TWG member, once we open the discussion po ng additional player, definitely po, I will strongly recommend that this cooperative be part of the new player po dito sa ating pilot study.
So, on the basis of that answer, Mr. Chair, hindi pa kayo nag-usap tungkol sa mga gustong mag-apply, ma-include do sa TWG pilot study?
Your Honor, officially po, hindi pa po kami nag-open sa topic on who are the new players.
So, Mr. Chair, yun, lumilitaw po. Maraming applicants pala, qualified naman. Kasi yung sinasabi ko nga na nagpunta sa akin, tinignan ko rin, hindi lamang po yung kanilang mga documentary requisites. Pati po yung mga lugar nila, yung binabanggit po kanina, yung kanilang mga opisina, pati yung mga scheme nila for security and safety, meron sila may training din po sila. Pati yung pong mga riders nila, initially meron silang about 2,500 ready to operate, ready to participate. So ang ginawa po nila formally, they wrote the chairman of the TWG, now the chairman of the LFRTB. Yun nga po, that was February 6. And next month, or sumunod na buwan, nagpunta nga po ako para lang personally malaman ko kung tatanggapin po yung application. 4 months later, hindi nga po nakatanggap man lang ng kahit anong sulat kung tatanggapin o hindi. Ganun po. Kaya siguro nagsisintimiento po yung applicant na yon, including this representation, because kung hindi totoo na tatlo lang ang gusto ninyo mag-participate, bakit hindi nyo man lang sinagot man lang yung application ng tao? Ito po yung nakakalungkot dito eh. Pasensya na po doon sa mga representatives na kasama sa pilot study. Pero ganun po yung nakikita namin. Para bang ang nangyayari, ito lang ang po pwedeng mag-participate sa pilot study. Granting that they are the only ones qualified to participate in this study. Hanggang kailan ba ito? Wala naman kayong prangkisa na ibinigay. Wala pa tayong prangkisa. Naghihintay kami kung ano ba talaga ang inputs na ibibigay ninyo. So if these are the most qualified participants in your study, hanggang ngayon ba wala pa tayong nakuhang inputs to give to the House of Representatives for us to be able to consider amending Republic Act 4136 for the sake of our riders? Sino po yung gustong sumagot?
Mr. Chair, may I? On the issue of the application, we apologize to the Honorable, the distinguished congressman on if there was no immediate reply given to you. But I believe that all applications for new players in the MC taxi business have been endorsed to a TWG headed by Attorney Paul Austria. There were about 5 applicants. Number 1, the vetting process will still start. We haven't started it yet because 1, we will be seeking the guidance of the House after this hearing if we will still continue with the program or not, since we have already submitted our final report sometime this year. And however, Mr. Chair, we are also in a quandary because in a meeting conducted with the upper house, the recommendation of 2 members of the committee is for us to expand the study. So we are evaluating our options as of this time, but I can assure the good congressman that if the vetting process will commence, we will immediately notify them and we will inform your office of the results of the vetting process.
Mr. Chair, may we know the names of the 2 members of the upper house who
Yes,
suggested that you extend
for the
your,
record,
your
yes.
pilot study?
Yes, sir. At the time, I think it was Senator Grace Poe and Senator Tulfo who made the recommendation during the committee hearing.
Senator Tulfo and Senator Grace Poe are the Senate?
Yes, Your Honor.
They speak for the entire Senate of the Philippines?
No, Your Honor, but that was their recommendation perhaps in their capacity.
Yun nga
as
yung sinasabi ko, kahit na ba 10 pa yung nag-recommenda verbally, sila ba yung Senate?
No, sir.
Is that the way to take up a mandate? And then you keep on referring upper house and dito is lower house.
Senate and
Where
House of
did you get upper
Representatives.
house and lower house?
That was the common perhaps term in the old days. We
Do
apologize.
not use that
Mr.
anymore
Chairman.
because it cannot be found even in the Constitution. Siguro mas maganda, ganito na lang. Senate is the smaller house. The House of Representatives is the bigger house.
Correct.
Noted, sir.
With respect to the numbers of the members of each chamber. Mr. Chair, tama ba yun?
I agree.
Thank you.
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
So anong gagawin nyo, Mr. Chairman of the TWG? Para hindi naman kayo mapagsuspetsahan na meron kayong kinikilingan. In direction, hindi pa nga nyo alam kung hihinto kayo o hindi. Kung gusto ninyo, pahintuin na natin muna ngayon, effective today. Para lang sabihin natin, parehas na lang ang labanan. Pwede ba?
Yes, sir. We will.
Hindi, halimbawa, I'm not talking as a member of the Senate. I am verbally talking as a member of the House of Representatives. Pinakinggan mo yung dalawa. Eh, paano kung kami dalawa ni Chairman ako magsabi sa iyo ngayon? patigilin natin yung tatlong yan. Pakikinggan mo ba kami?
Mr. Chair, the results of this study have already been accomplished. We already submitted the report to your house, to your committee. So I believe it is within your power now to tell us whether to proceed further with this study or not. So we await for your final determination, Mr. Chair.
Your Honor,
1 minute suspension, Mr. Chair.
may I be given the permission to answer the statement of the chairman?
Of course, you're the chairman, sir.
Thank you. Yung sagot mo, Mr. Chairman, is sagot ng mga taga-DOTR na nasa amin kung ite-terminate namin yan o hindi. Pero ang sinusunod nyo naman ng pag-extend, ay yun nasa Senado. How is that?
Mr. Chair, I just assume this post and
No.
I'm just
Pakiulit
taking-
nga, Mr. Chairman. In-assume mo.
I just assumed this chairmanship about 3 or 4 months ago, sir, and we haven't done really anything, whether to increase or decrease the number or to prolong the study. We just maintain it status quo for the meantime, hoping that after this hearing, we would be given the proper direction on how to further proceed with the pilot study.
Why don't you make a report to the House that your study was already terminated and you are coming up with your final report to this committee because it's pursuant to House Resolution number 2449 na ginawa nyo yung pilot study. How is it?
Noted, sir, we will do it.
Why don't
as a-
kasi inaantay nyo na kami ang magsabi, itigil nyo na which is wrong.
Yes, sir, we will do it, sir.
Kasi pursuant to all the records here that I've seen, sinabi nyo na noon pa, 2020 hanggang 2021 lang yung pilot study ninyo Tama naman yung sinasabi ni Honorable Marcoleta What you are doing is you're arrogating unto yourself the power of Congress to grant franchises. Di ba? Because in the last memorandum circular, bago itong 2023-004, before may limit yung inyong pilot study. Pero dito sa huli, before this 2023-004, unlimited yung period. So, parang nagkakaroon na sila ng franchise na mag-operate. Because there's no limit anymore. Di ba tama? You're a lawyer, right?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Parang nagkakaroon na ng monopoly, yung tatlo. Excluding the other participants who want to participate sa pilot study program.
Noted, Mr. Chair. We will do it within 30 days to come
So-
up with a report.
If your pilot study is already terminated, you have all the data and information needed pursuant to House Resolution number 2449, bakit hindi kayo mag-submit na report dito stating therein na yung pilot study ay tapos na? Di ba? Bakit manggagaling sa amin? Pinapasa nyo sa amin
We apologize, Mr. Chair. We will do it.
Thank you. The Honorable Marcoleta, you still have the floor?
May I move for a minute suspension, Mr. Chair?
Second motion, Mr. Chair.
Any objection? Hearing none, 1 minute suspension.
Okay lang. Iwan ko na lang yung tripod. Ano mo? Galing ba na? Wala naman. Saka pala ito. Or iwan mo sa amin. Lagyan mo na tayo sa
Let's please take our proper places. Hindi, i-resume. Nag-suspend lang kanina eh. The meeting is hereby resumed. Before we proceed, the chair would like to acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Robert Raymond Estrella, representative of Party List Abono ng tanghali po. Honorable Marcoleta. Honorable Marcoleta, are you finished? Are you finished? The issue I was raising a while ago is that it is as if the technical working group would want Congress to terminate the pilot study. If you read the basis of your existence, which is House Resolution number 2449 from the 18th Congress, 17th Congress. Kung titingnan mo yung mga authors nito, karamihan sa kanila, Metro Manila congressmen noon. Okay? And it was to address habal-habal or motorcycles for hire, right? And as you have stated a while ago, you have finished your pilot study, and therefore you want it terminated. Yun po ba ang gusto nyo? Yes or no?
May
Do you want it
yield the floor
terminated?
to the ASECO LTO.
Mr. Chairman, there are a lot of valuable information that we.
No. Please answer my question first.
As Vice Chair, I would not want it terminated. There are key issues raised by the House today that I think would have to be addressed squarely. For example, the issue of multi-homing. Will we allow it or will we not allow it? There are collateral issues to that. If we allow multi-homing, the issues of liabilities will come into play. I think these are some of the things coming from today's hearing that will have to be addressed by the technical working group. But we are now in the tail end, given all what the technical working group has done. I think we can now put a timeline, a period to this, and come up with a recommendation to the House and the Senate of a transitory provision as to what will happen pending the creation of a bill that would amend 4136.
Okay. The other issue raised is that some people would want the participants to be increased. What is your take on this?
Your Honor, like any franchise giving body, it cannot be exclusive to 1, 2, or 3. It must be open to all who are qualified. The issue I think that was raised here is the capping. Ilang sasakyan po ang pwedeng i-authorize given a certain route. Otherwise, we would crowd the route with other public utility vehicles that will unnecessarily compete with tricycles, jeepneys, and other players. I think the idea here is to allow as many participants as we can, but to get a cap, and then maybe that's part of the recommendation, Mr. Chair, to create a cap as to how many units can be authorized within the transitory period.
That should have been a part of your study, and that the data and the statistics gathered should have been part of your study. Hindi po ba?
Exactly, Mr. Chair. That's why I personally would not want to terminate the study first, because meron pa hong gaps as raised in today's hearing. Meron pa hong gaps that we have to address. So we have to go back and do our final homework just to put everything together, Mr. Chair.
Is your stand the stand of the technical working group, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
We have a uniform stand.
Yes, Attorney Hinton, you're raising your hand.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, we represent the lawyers for commuter safety and protection. We are intensely listening to the discussion. May point lang po kami. Alam nyo, marami pong reklamo, mga complaints na nakakarating sa amin.
Teka. Is that germane to the
Yes, Your Honor.
the issue?
Yes, Your Honor, it is germane to the issue.
Okay.
Now,
proceed.
those complaints, ipapasa po namin sa TWG. Now, TWG, we don't know what kind of animals TWG. It has no legal personality. At kapag may complaint doon, they could not decide. No? And if they decide, can they implement? In other words, wala pong that's the problem now, because when the TWG was created, it was so limited as to the scope. Kaya if we could recommend to Congress, no, to the bigger house, no, tingnan po natin yung creation ng TWG, because mukhang tatagal pa eh. Mukhang tatagal. Katulad nun, merong mga mag-a-apply. Yung mga pag nag-apply at hindi po tinanggap, what is the remedy? Like what Congressman Marcoleta cited kanina. What was the remedy of that entity? There was none. No? Kasi nga wala nga pong yung TWG. So to us, with all due respect, if the House, no, the Committee on Transportation can look into the DWG, baka may mga kailangan. No? And then kung sakaling meron, then I agree with the Attorney Vigor Mendoza, na ating pong LTO chief, na sabi na there should be a transition period. No? Kung sakaling ang Kongreso patigil to, then there should be a transition period, because marami pong riders. There are 45,000 riders na maapektuhan and 100,000 more or less passengers. Kung pag pinahinto natin etong pilot study, titigil ba ang mga riders? So may transition period na. Yun lang po. Marami pong salamat.
Yes, the Honorable Paduan is recognized.
Yes, Your Honor. No, that is not my intention, Your Honor.
You question the legal basis.
No. It is not our intention.
Don't lie to me.
I
Secretary,
am not
please
lying
check.
to you, Congressman. What I
What have you
said,
said?
what I said,
Attorney,
What have you said?
I said that
Attorney,
kung
teka.
maaring tingnan yung TWG.
I will move to cite you in contempt.
Chairman. Attorney Hinton,
Yes, Your Honor.
do you know the House rules?
No, sir. I am
No?
not yet.
So you please observe.
Yes, Your Honor.
Do
My
not
apology
speak,
to the chairman and
do
to
not
the
speak
Congressman.
when you're not allowed by the chairman.
Yes, Your Honor.
I have recognized the Honorable Paduano and he has the floor.
Yes, Your Honor. I apologize to the good
Okay.
Congressman.
You listen.
Yes, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Can I proceed? Anyway, anong tanong mo doon? Anong question mo doon sa TWG?
Maybe-
Check nga yung record. Secretariat, don't lie to this committee. Or else, I will cite you in contempt talaga. Di ba legal ang tinatala? question niya? What's the legal basis? For your information, yung TWG was created and was approved by both Congress. Now, kung may question ka doon sa composition, sa result, ibang usapin yun, but never question the legality of this technical working group.
Mr. Chairman, may I reply?
O, paki-check nga. So you stand by your what you have said? What you have said? Sige nga.
Mr. Chairman, may I reply so that I could clear up with the congressman what I said?
Sandali. The Honorable Paduano referred to the minutes.
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes. Naka-record ba? Yung transcript ng kwan nangyari.
The TWD do not, has no legal basis to include, they cannot decide. And if that, we cannot.
Your Honor, please.
Mr. Chairman.
Can we play the?
Mr. Chairman, before we let the resource person speak, nag-react lang ako dun, Mr. Chairman, because I heard talaga na he questioned the legal basis. Sabi ko nga, I have nothing against the opinion of the resource person with regards to all others questioning the membership, questioning the composition, questioning, but yung question, you're questioning the legal basis at malinaw na nandun sa minutes, nagsasinungaling ka. I might cite you in contempt.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Ang
Chair.
tigas ng ulo mo eh.
Mr. Chairman.
Sandali lang at hindi pa siya tapos eh. Antayin mong tanungin ko siya kung tapos siya.
Yes, Your Honor.
God damn it. Pangatlo, I will order you out of this room for being not in order. I hope that's clear. Go ahead, please.
And Chairman, it was already recorded that indeed the gentleman, the resource person, questioned about the legal basis. Now, sabi ko na nga, wala akong problema dun. If you question the composition, if you question the result, if you question the extension, whatever, but to question the legal basis, Mr. Chairman, is an insult to this House of Congress. Not only in the lower house, but also the Senate, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Your Honor. You want to speak, Attorney Hinton?
Yes, Your Honor, if I will be allowed.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I apologize to the good congressman. That is not my intention. Ang sabi ko po, legal personality of the TWG. Your Honor, ako po ang isa sa nagsulong nun sa nitong yung pag-create po ng TWG. And yan, yung po nagkaroon nga po ng TWG, ang sinasabi po natin, walang legal personality mag-decide ng mga complaint. Yun po ang akin po sinasabi. Wala po tayong kabastusan na intensyon sa Kongreso. At kung meron pong gano'ng I was misinterpreted. I am sorry, Your Honor, but I am not going to disrespect this chamber. Never ko pong ginawa yan. For so many times na nag-appear po ako dito, hindi ko po ginawa yan.
Mr. Chairman.
Are you finished?
Yes, Your Honor.
Walang legal personality ang TWG. Is that your statement?
Opo, to decide the complaints.
To decide?
Yung complaints po.
On the complaints?
Opo, yun po ang tingin po ng inyong lingkod.
Okay. That's your opinion and you're entitled to that.
Opo.
But let me read to you part of the House Resolution number 2449, which serves as a basis for the DOTR to create a TWG to implement or to study or to conduct the motorcycle taxi for hire. Nandito yung kwan. Whereas the riding public may suffer in this new mode of commuting and delivery service if not regulated, which calls for the DOTR as a regulating agency to enforce its authority over habal-habal and motorcycles for hire, that must foremost be mandated to be organized and registered under Philippine laws so that they can patrol themselves as they accredit their member drivers, operators, and monitor the performance and behavior on the roads as public carriers, creating a competition that will keep only the fittest to serve end users. Now, here is the other provision. Whereas while legislation on the matter is pending in Congress, the DOTR is in the position to address this gap by setting up a pilot program, monitoring the operations of motorcycle taxis, and overseeing the conduct of the entire transaction from booking the trip to passengers' arrival at destination. Whereas the DOTR may design the pilot program and select pilot areas for implementation nationwide where they may be highly serviceable and by which they can determine the most appropriate and reasonable rules and regulations on this mode of transportation to ensure utmost protection and safety of the riding public, unquote. So, nasa kanila yung kwan. They have the legal personality as stated here.
Thank you, Your Honor. If that is the case, then we will just push with the TWG the complaints that we have forwarded that they said decide on it.
Then, if they know that to act on your complaint, you can file with the ombudsman for violation of maybe Republic Act 3019 or 6713, the Code of Conduct of Public Officials. Bakit hindi mo gawin? You're a lawyer.
Thank you for the idea.
Yes. Because if I were in your place, that is what I would do.
Thank you, Honor.
Thank you.
Chairman,
Again, me
Mr. Chairman, just a
apologize, Your
rejoinder,
Honor.
Mr. Chairman, just a rejoinder. Since it is clear that the TWG has a legal personality, may we ask the resource person to withdraw his statement just for the record?
We withdraw, Your Honor.
Thank you, Chairman.
Is that recorded, the withdrawal? Transcribers? Thank you. So, could you repeat your recommendation, Asik Mendoza?
Well, again, sir, my recommendation, and as adopted by the technical working group, is to continue with the study in order to address the issues and concerns raised in today's hearing. And to put a specific timeline within which these issues and concerns would be finally resolved. We're already the tail end of the technical working group, but there are very good concerns raised. So we'd like that incorporated in the final report. And we will provide a transitory provision that would allow, anyway, the Executive Order 202 and the Public Service Act allows the LTFRB to issue provisional authorities to operators. Hindi pa ho i-register ho yan as public utility sa LTO. Provisional authority pa lang yan to operate. One of the key statutory provisions I would think would be the cap. Ilang motosiklo ang i-allow pending the passage of the bill that would harmonize the laws. These things we can already complete in the short time. We just have to, of course, get our approval from the DOTR. But I think we're now in the tail end, and I think the transitory provision also would have a legal basis under the Public Service Act, the Executive Order 202 for purposes of provisional authority. Hindi pa ho final prangkisa po to. And then subject to the House's approval and the Congress's approval as far as the cap is concerned. Kasi you know, it opened it up like any other provisional authority, like any other franchise giving body, Mr. Chair. It has to be opened up to all and given to all who are qualified.
In other words, what you're trying to recommend to this committee is that the pilot project will continue.
Yes, sir. Yes,
I
sir.
would just like to make it clear that it is not within the purview of the jurisdiction of this committee or of the House of Representatives for you to terminate the pilot study. You were the ones who were directed to conduct it. You terminate the pilot study if the objectives have been met. Hindi po ba nararapat lang yon? Huwag niyong ipasa sa amin yung problema at magiging sama ng loob ng mga tao na maapektuhan nito. Yun
Yes,
lang
sir.
po ang aking kwan.
Tama po yun. Kami po ang magre-recommenda. Kami po ang mag-determinate pagtapos na po with a transitory provision in order to address naman ho yung anong mangyayari from the time of termination to the passage of the bill.
That issue has been settled, okay? Any objections to?
Clarification only, Mr. Chair.
Yes, the Honorable Marcoleta is recognized.
So the LTO head is already implying not to terminate the pilot project?
Yes,
You
Mr.
are not.
Yes, Mr. Chair, our recommendation is not to terminate.
And you are further recommending that the bigger house will allow you to continue with the pilot project?
Hindi po. It would have to be, we will have to also seek.
Hindi kasi kung hindi mo, Mr. Chair, kung hindi mo ite-terminate ngayon, we are continuing pa, di ba?
Opo.
And then you are asking for parameters. One of the parameters is you have to rationalize the participants. Hindi yung tatlo lang ang kinuha ninyo. Nakakapagduda na sa members ng larger house sapagkat pag yung nagsalita doon sa smaller house, parang mas binibigyan nyo sila ng ng importansya kaysa sa amin eh. You remember you draw your life from the House resolution kaya nagkaroon nga nito eh. Kung wala yung House resolution, wala yung pilot study. Di ba? So, kung gusto nyong magpatuloy, Mr. Chair, baguhin natin yung parameters, hindi naman yung tatlo lang yung participants.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I think tama po si Congressman. We have to.
So how many participants are you willing to include para ngayon yung study nyo maging makatotohanan na hindi pinagsususpetsahan?
Mr. Chair, my suggestion is not the number. We can have as many number as possible, but the number of units.
Number of participants na kumpanya. Hindi yung halimbawa, if it is necessary to trim down the numbers nung angkas, move it at saka yung joyride, gawin natin yun para ma-rationalize natin.
I agree po with the Congressman, Mr. Chair. No, I mean the franchising processes already is there. Kailangan i-open up ito to all those.
Anong franchising processes?
Kasi po ang nakikita ko po dito
hindi pa tayo nagbibigay ng franchise, only Congress will give franchise.
I correct myself.
Asek Mendoza, huwag mong gamitin kasi yung magbibigay kayo ng franchise. That's the power of Congress. So,
only the bigger house can give the franchise.
I stand corrected.
Not the smaller house.
Stand corrected, Mr. Chair, on my terms. But yes, I agree po na we have to open it up to all. Siguro ang ipapa-approve namin talaga yung cap kung ilan hong mga sasakyan, ilan hong motosiklo ang kailangan natin pagbigyan. Kung kailangan bawasan yung iba in order to have a level playing field, ayun po siguro ang gagawin.
Bakit kung kailangan? Kailangan talagang bawasan eh. Hindi mo ma-include yung iba eh.
Mr. Chair, hindi ko alam ko yung cap eh. Yun ang hindi ko pa sigurado yung cap. So I think that is a very crucial factor we have to determine.
So it is Mr. Chair, it is very, very saddening na after 3 years of the pilot study, the TWG is still unable to even determine the cap. Pero paparami na kayo ng paparami. Di ba? So it has become, parang the pilot study, which was initialized by a House resolution, gotten its own life. Na hindi na natin alam kung, gaya nagsabi, no, somebody here already, sabi, I do not know what kind of animal is the TWG. Of course, he's expressing his exasperation. Kami din, exasperated na kung what kind of animal is the TWG. we do not allow it to become a monster, Mr. Chair. Kaya natin nira-rationalize lahat ito. Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, just a interjection.
Yes, the
dun sa
Honorable
sinabi
Barbers
ni
is recognized.
Congressman Marcoleta, kasi parang clarification lang dun sa sinabi ni Asik Mendoza. So you're proposing that in the meantime, we will not terminate it. And if ever we terminate it, meron transitory provision para hindi naman magkaroon ng putol yung mga nabigyan. Tama? Until a law is passed.
That is the proposal, sir.
Okay, considering Mr. Chairman, and I guess the good ASEC knows and familiar about the legislative process.
Yes, sir.
Sometimes it takes years
Yes, sir.
before a law is passed. Just to give you an example, this particular there's a particular law that has been passed, that has been proposed since the 11th Congress, and unfortunately, hanggang ngayon, 19 Congress na hindi pa rin pasado. So I just wanted to be clarified on that particular proposal of the ASEC, Mr. Chairman, kasi napakalaki na ho nung number eh. 45,000 in Metro Manila, you have 9,000 in Cebu, you have 6,000 in CDO. So you're talking of almost 80,000 people that will lose their jobs if ever we put a stop to this particular proposal, Mr. Chair. So ito pa nga, if I just would like to take this opportunity and ask the TWG, Mr. Chair, dun ba sa study, I'm glad no that in the discussions since this morning, we have been talking about the safety as the primordial given primordial importance by these three providers, no? Napakaganda dahil safety eh. Alam mo, magandang usapin 'yon. Pangalawa, syempre yung economic opportunity for all the riders, which is I guess good, no? But let me ask you, sa chairman ng TWG, did we ever do or come up with a impact study on traffic? Alam mo, 45,000 ito dinagdag nating sasakyan sa Metro Manila. Kaliliit ng mga kalsada natin, hinati nyo pa sa bike lane at saka doon sa motorcycle lane. Eh kaya siguro ang terrible ang traffic sa atin sa Metro Manila. So did we ever have an impact study on this, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chair, we regret to inform the good congressman that it was never a part of the study. Hindi ko namin naisama yung impact study. We apologize for that.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, 3 years in the making yung study, pilot. Kaya natin ginawa ito. What was the intention really of allowing a motorcycle transport system in the country? Is because you probably did, I don't know, ano yung study, yung volume ng traffic at a certain number of time of the day. Hindi nyo ba ini-study yung probable pollution contribution, assuming no, all these studies should have been incorporated in this study, Mr. Chair. So baka magpasa tayo ng batas tapos tayo rin na magsasabi. Each and every one of us here actually experience how bad the traffic is. Traffic in Metro Manila during rush hours is terrible. Hindi nyo sinama sa study nyo yun?
In my few months of being the chairman, I'm not aware of any study made on that. The only aspects that was taken into consideration is the safety, security, and the economic impact. But we will, during the expanded study, take note of all of your suggestions, sir. And in our subsequent report, we will include this.
Mr. Chairman, I think, with 3 years, 4 years of this pilot study, ang gagaling nyo dyan sa LTFRB tsaka sa LTO, tatagal nyo na dyan eh. Except for Attorney Guadis, bakit hindi nyo man lang naisip na lagyan ng aspeto yung pag-aaral nyo dun sa aspeto ng traffic? 45,000 yung dinagdag nating motorsiklo sa loob ng EDSA, example. Di ba? So, as it is today, Mr. Chairman, traffic na nga. Wala ba yung ano, kung madadagdagan pa yan, mas mahirap. Pangalawa, there's now a policy that they actually provided a motorcycle and bicycle lane. Di binawasan mo pa ng isang lane ngayon. Yung ano, so I don't know, anong dapat na isama niyo yan sa inyong study, Mr. Chair?
Mr. Chairman, don't you think that part of your study should have been coming up a TI traffic impact assessment? Kasi mag-i-employ ka ng mga riders who would use the road infrastructures of Metropolitan Manila, Cebu, or Cagayan de Oro, dapat in-include ninyo yung traffic impact assessment para malaman yung impact ng ganitong pilot study doon sa traffic situation ng ating bansa. Hindi pa po dapat na meron tayo nun?
Mr. Chair, may I answer? We appreciate the recommendation of the good congressman, and I would assure the body that since I'm just in my 3rd month, we will conduct a study based on the recommendations of Congressman Barbers, and in my subsequent report to you, we will include a traffic impact study. We apologize for if the report of the previous TWG fell short of your expectations, but we will try to make up for it in the subsequent report that we will be submitting to you, Mr. Chair.
May I also remind you that pursuant to Department Order number 2023-004, part of the technical working group would be representatives of the Committee on Transportation of the House and of the Senate.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Please be reminded of that.
If we will convene, we will notify the committee on our subsequent meetings, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much for reminding us, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You still have some issues?
Yeah, one last point, Mr. Chair.
You have the floor.
I'm also glad that the TWG has considered yung, sabi ko nga kanina, yung safety both ng rider at saka nung pasahero. Although syempre that's highly debatable, no? Sometimes I see some passengers riding a motorcycle na parang plastic yata yung helmet, no? So parang siguro in your study, Mr. Chairman, siguro mas maganda ring kasi I am not agreeable, or should we say amenable, that we apply yung MC taxi sa buong Metro Manila, no? Kagaya nga ng ni-raise kanina ni Congressman Cruz, no, na sa kanila dun sa Pateros and Pasig, Mr. Chair, it's directly competing with the existing transport system dun sa kanila. Siguro part ng study nyo, you do an economic impact assessment as well as to where you will implement the MC taxi and where you should limit it. And yung sinasabi niya kanina ni Asek Mendoza, yung capping. Kasi if you allow, say, you have 3 providers now, no? Assuming each one of them will get 20,000 riders.